Jessica, do you mind saying something real quick just so we know we can hear you?
Councilmember Clark, we do not hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think everybody's here at 7 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Haslet City Council for Monday, January the 18th. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. We do have a quorum present, and I will announce that Councilmember Harold Williams will not be present this evening. Mayor Pro Tem, would you mind leading us in a prayer, sir?
No, I'll be glad to. Father, thank you for the freedom we enjoy tonight as we come together to assess the items before us. We ask that you grant us the wisdom to act in the best interest of all the citizens of Haslet. We also ask for your continued protection for our city staff, our first responders, our teachers, and our residents as we attempt to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic that risks the health of so many of us. We also ask for your continued blessings as we move forward from tonight's meeting. Amen.
Y'all please stand. We're going to get an American flag up here and we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, citizens' participation and comments. I want to read something here real quick at the bottom of the blurb, just for the folks who might be on here new. During video conference and teleconference meetings, the purpose of the chat function is to have a list for the chair to recognize speakers and to communicate with staff in the event of technical difficulties or malfunctions. During official meetings, the chat feature will be open for citizens' participation, and again for public hearings, so that speakers can list their name and address and be called on in the order that they are listed to speak. Chat is not for conversations during official meetings. I do have a list of folks who want to speak on item 9A, and I do know that Mr. Halsey has expressed a desire to speak at this time. So I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Halsey. You have 3 minutes, sir. We're not hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hear me now? Okay, thank you. I had the opportunity, well, I do generally sometimes review our city records, our ordinances and things, and I noticed there is a organizational chart, and at the very top of that is the citizens of Haslet, and down below is our local government, headed by the city council and all the departments underneath. You know, and today I was reading in chapter 1, the administrative code, our ordinances, article 103, division 3, it's the code of ethics and conduct. It says, not all of it, but it says, it is hereby declared to be the policy of the city that the proper operation of democratic government requires that public officials be independent, impartial, and responsible only to the people of the city. Also, it goes on to state, to implement such a policy, the city council deems it advisable to enact a code of ethics and conduct applicable to all elected and appointed officials of the city. In a few months, on May 1st, those of you on the council will be again asking the people of the city, the citizens of Haslet, the voters, to vote for you again. You're asking for their vote to presumably have the privilege of representing the citizens, representing their preferences for their community, which is their home, Haslet, Texas. One of the methods of receiving citizen input are formal public hearings. It's concerns me, however, that it appears that public hearings have become just an exercise of legal requirement and that the citizen input seems at times just summarily dismissed. I think you can all recall some of those instances here recently. Why is this? After this is your sole purpose, to administer the city's business on behalf of the citizens of Haslet and their preferences, their input. There seems to be an error that the citizens' preferences do not matter.
I understand that.
They do. They have placed their trust in you. Please don't violate their trust. I'm just reminding you why you are on the council.
Thank you, sir. Is
Thank
there
you.
anyone else at this time under item 3? Anyone who wishes to speak at this time? Those of you that have already signed a list up or you're going to add your name on the chat list, we'll certainly allow you the opportunity to have your time to speak when 9A comes up. Is there anyone else other than for the items on the agenda that wants to speak at this time?
Mayor Golden,
Hearing
this is
none,
Diana, I
Go
don't
ahead.
show anyone else on the chat list for this item. And no one else signed up for this item in advance of the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm not on the chat list. I'd like to think about it. I'd like to reserve a spot later on. How do I do that? You didn't ask me.
Sir, if you are not able to put your name in the chat list, then when the item public hearing comes up, if you will just ask to be recognized, Mayor Golden will recognize you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item number 4, boards and commissions. 4A, discuss, consider, and act to make appointment to Parks and Recreation Board, Place 8, Alternate 1.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For your consideration is the application from city resident Matthew Kusner, who is volunteering to serve on the Parks and Recreation Board. We currently have 2 alternate positions vacant on the board at this time. We did all of the due diligence. Mr. Kusner did pass his background check. And we are excited to have him as an applicant. He's in one of our newer residential areas. And so we're very happy to have him apply. And with that, staff would recommend that council appoint Mr. Kusner to Place 8, Alternate 1 on the Parks and Recreation Board through the end of the term, September 30, 2022.
Any questions or comments for Diana?
Mayor, I don't have a comment about this item, but I wondered if Mrs. Buchanan could remind everyone to please turn off their mics if they're not being recognized to speak.
Yes, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending our meeting this evening. Of course, we are relying on technology we don't use all the time. And so if you would be kind enough to mute your microphone if you are able, which reduces feedback noise for everyone else, it would greatly be appreciated. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
This is Councilmember Morrow. I move to appoint Matthew Kusner to serve as Place 8, Alternate 1 on the Parks and Recreation Board through September 30th, 2022.
Is there a second?
This is Hilborn. I second.
Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call vote. Warren, Robb?
I just like to say first, I'm really pleased to see someone from one of our newest subdivisions stepping forward and volunteering to serve on one of our boards. I hope there'll be many others in the future, and I vote aye.
Thank you, sir. Jessica Clark?
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn?
Aye.
Tanya Morrow?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Items of community interest, we have 5A, the first day to file an application for a place on the May 1, 2021 general election ballot was Wednesday, January 13th, 2021, and the last day is Friday, February 12th by 5 p.m. The office of mayor and council member place 2 and council member place 4 will be on the ballot. As of the agenda publication, incumbents Mayor Golden and council member Patricia Hilborn have filed to be on the ballot. On to monthly reports. Any questions or comments about any of the monthly reports? Hearing none, let's go to number 7, staff reports.
Pardon me, I'm sorry, I didn't speak up soon enough. I wonder if our engineer could kind of go over some of the progress that we've made in the last month.
Travis.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So if we go to my report for this month, I'll just kind of highlight the green projects, which are the ones that are updated with new information. The community park upper trail crossing, that's basically going to be the same configuration as the tap trail with some box culverts and some rails. That's about, it's actually more than 30% complete. It's almost done right now. I'll have that on a future agenda. John Day Road, at the time of the report, it was about 25% complete. It's probably closer to 40% now. You can make it from end to end. I wouldn't recommend it because the road is closed and there's a lot of different barriers to it, but you can't, the progress is being made there. So we look forward to that.
So Travis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem. So why is it we're building John Day Road?
We are building John Day Road to provide a second entrance to Laterra and emergency access to the school there. So if the crossing at Avondale Haslet is blocked by a train, the fire department has a way to get to that school and also into that subdivision for emergency matters. And it also provides a much needed relief route for Haslet and for the surrounding area, where if there is a train crossing or a train emergency where they have to stop and close that Avondale Haslet crossing for a longer than expected period, there's another way to get around other than winding all the way through Sendera Ranch. So that's why we're building that.
And are there additional schools coming to that area?
There is a high school and middle school planned. I believe the middle school will be on the next ballot in May as a bond issuance to do the middle school. And then the high school, I believe at this point, is about 5 years out.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on, Intermodal Parkway, the contractor will be setting up traffic control this week and will be on site next week to do some repairs and replacements along there. The Brentwood Drainage Project is going well. It's about 25% complete. Most of the culverts have been placed. We are working with homeowners in that neighborhood to make sure that what was designed and what's placed on the ground still works for them in their day-to-day lives. So that project is going well. The Gamble Park Playground, I'm sure Kurt will touch on this later, but formal opening will be on February 1st. The work is complete. The invoice has been paid now, so we are just waiting on some signs that Kurt will talk about later.
And was this a project brought to us by the park board?
Yes, this was a project brought by the park board. When a new lot is developed in the city, there's a park fee that gets associated with that. That park fee goes into a separate account, separate from any other city finances. And that money is what was used to pay for this playground. The Haslet Park Subdivision Street Replacement Project, bid opening took place and the bid was awarded at the last council meeting. We're working through getting that contract signed. We'll be scheduling a meeting with the neighborhood. It'll be virtual. And to answer any questions, it is going to be a different process than the previous project. It will be the same kind of dirt work process, but then the concrete will actually be traditional concrete. So we'll schedule a meeting with the neighborhood prior to any contractor moving in there.
And how much of Haslet Park is going to be done with this project, and how much of Haslet Park will yet to be done with this project when we're completed?
This project does the remainder of the asphalt streets in Haslet Park, turns everything into concrete. So that neighborhood will have concrete throughout.
They're talking about the park now, right?
Haslet, is it Park? I thought they said Haslet Parkway.
Haslet Park, that's the subdivision. All right, the Main Street concrete repairs, we are aware that there's been developing potholes along there. We are looking to fast track a bid to take advantage of the Keller Haslet Road being closed. That will advertise this week, which we'll get bids in on that and get those repairs made. Due to the expansion of FM 156, some of the fire department parking will be taken away. So we are looking at expanding that parking lot. Engineering is actually complete, and we are moving that towards the site plan process. So P&Z and council will see that in the very near future, and we'll probably get that constructed this summer.
Travis, how many parking spaces will we gain? And can someone please turn off their mic? And they're in a vehicle, and we can hear your turn signal going.
We're still looking at how many spaces we're adding. It's a minimum of 16. It could be as many as 25. It's going to just depend on how the site plan works out and available funds. We may do a alternate bid to see if we can get more, but we are definitely adding spaces to what's being lost in that parking lot.
So Travis, when do we believe that 156 will be widened?
The plan right now from TxDOT is 2025 is construction. They are at about 50% design. 50% schematics are in-house. They're different than what was shown at the public meeting. A lot of the comments that were made at the public meeting, as far as median openings, making sure that neighborhoods had access, were addressed. Not all of them could be addressed, but a good portion of them were. So we are working through that. We are also coordinating the FM 156 expansion with the Haslet Parkway and Avondale Haslet reconstruction to make sure that we don't put in infrastructure that has to be changed in the near future. So we are still, as far as TxDOT tells me, still on track for a 2025 expansion, which will be 6 lanes from 287 to Avondale Haslet Road, and then 4 lanes from Avondale Haslet Road to the Denton County line at Intermodal Parkway. Next project was the City Hall beautification, the former parking area that was converted to the trail. Public Works crews removed all the concrete and asphalt out of that area, and we got fill dirt in there. We do have a landscape plan and an irrigation plan for that. We're waiting on one more bid, and then also waiting on not winter, basically. It's not the best time of year to be planting things, but we do intend on getting that planted and sprucing up the front of that building. The TRA sewer line, the pipe that you saw in the community park for the last 6 months or so, there was a change order, and the project itself is subject to a 3-way agreement between the City of Fort Worth, City of Haslet, and TRA. So when that change order came through, all 3 parties had to agree to it. That process took a little bit longer than we had anticipated. The contractor is back to work now. They are pushing the pipe underneath the railroad track. They've started work on the west side of the railroad track, and we'll be moving along. They have cleaned up the park. We do have a couple parts of the trail that need to be replaced, and we will be getting that done in the near future.
So Travis, what are the reasons behind even our involvement in this sewer project, and why are we in charge?
There's a couple different scenarios of why we're in charge. First is that Laterra Phase 3 needs that sewer, along with the Northwest High School. About half of the school will have to sewer that direction. So that's part one. Part two is that if we were to put in the sewer for only Haslet development, it would probably be a much smaller line than what it's going to be, which is a 24-inch line. The city of Fort Worth also needs that line. Once the city of Fort Worth hooks onto that line, it becomes the Trinity River Authority's line. So that's why they're involved. The benefit to Haslet is that Haslet is getting infrastructure pennies on the dollar. The city of Fort Worth is taking the majority of that cost to put that line in. The reason Haslet is in charge is because Haslet is the first user on it. Laterra Phase 3 and that high school are going to be the first users on that line. There's other infrastructure that has to be put in on the Fort Worth side to be able to use that line. So that's why we're in charge of the project. It really streamlined things. There was a lot of red tape that was cut, being with Haslet in charge and not TRA. It is designed to TRA standards. TRA is inspecting the line. So that is good. And in the future, that'll be a TRA line. So,
But just one more question on that. What do we know about Fort Worth's need for that line? Their plans for west of Laterra.
My understanding was a zoning case for the Nance Ranch was presented. It was continued from a previous meeting and I believe approved at the last meeting. So they have had it rezoned to meet a future land use plan where it would be mostly single family housing, some retail, some commercial in there. I think they had some multifamily in there as well. So we keep an eye on things that happen on the border, but since they're just now in zoning, there's still a pretty good lead time on any proposed development to the west of that line. Speaking on sewer still, we're redoing the wastewater master plan to make sure that the Haslet system can handle any type of development or growth that may happen. Also looking at capital improvements to improve existing infrastructure. If a line needs to be upgraded or resealed, anything to do with size, we're looking into that. So far, the master plan is coming out great. There's only 2 areas in the city that kind of look like they may need a little bit of work. And when I say a little bit, it means that there's a need for it only because it's very close to being not in compliance on a global scale. So the previous wastewater master plans for the city have put Haslet in a good position as far as not needing any type of lift stations or any type of major improvements right now.
Is this something we update periodically and it's just time to do it? How do you determine that?
So the master plan gets associated to impact fees. Impact fees can only be charged for a period of 5 years and then can be renewed for a 5-year period before they need to be updated. So we are in that update process to be able to see what impact fees need to be charged to new development to make sure the system doesn't get overrun or need major upgrades in the future.
So Travis, do we have a similar plan for water?
That plan was updated in 2018. A few of those projects have already been done. The Laterra water line in John Day Road was upsized from a 12-inch to a 16-inch. That was one of the projects. When Amazon Air came in, they made a critical connection of a 16-inch water line. That was another one of the projects on there. So we're starting to check off some of those projects on that as well.
So what's the status of that second water tower?
The second water tower is being built by being bid by the developer of Laterra. They have approved plans. Their plans are currently out for bid right now. We have, as the city, the right to obviously approve those plans and also have our own inspectors on the project. Our inspectors are standing by as soon as that gets going. We have a couple easements that we're obtaining from property owners in the area, but that will be soon. The Laterra development agreement stated that after the 150th house, that there would have to be that water tower constructed. Backing into their schedule, you can see houses being built there now that needs to be constructed in the very near future so that by the time that 150th house is online, we have the water tower there. It's been approved.
How will it benefit the rest of the city?
That there's a lot of benefits in that. One, we have a backup water supply. If there was one issue with the elevated tank, we would probably the current elevated tank, we would probably have to go into some type of water restriction just because of the amount of water that's available to the city. Having a second water tower first increases the amount of water that's available. The second thing is that when you have only one water tower in the system, you can't take it offline for repairs, maintenance, that type of thing. So you're constantly trying to do maintenance on it while there's water still in the tank. So having a second water tower means you can take one water tower offline and be able to do some of those maintenance and repair items. Third thing is that it equalizes out the pressure planes better. Currently, all of the water is received from the city of Fort Worth. There are 4 meter stations. One of them doesn't flow as much anymore because of that water plane equalization. So that benefits the city in that way. The next section of the report are the subdivision projects. Most of that is where there's community facility agreements, where there's new water lines, sewer lines, or roadway improvements. Those are all private, but inspected by the city until such time as they're accepted. And once they're accepted by the city, they become the responsibility of the city. So for instance, on Watercrest, that new concrete section of Blue Mound Road, it's open, it's striped. It took a little bit longer than we had anticipated. There were COVID delays, there was rain delays, that type of thing. But we got it open now, finishing up the driveways. We will accept those improvements officially here soon. Regal Ridge, which is also now known as the Vines, those improvements have been accepted into the city. So as soon as they're ready to sell lots, those are public improvements that they'll be hooking into. North Glen Phase 2, I believe, is on the agenda tonight for approval. And Laterra Phase 3 is highly dependent on that sewer that we spoke about earlier, the TRA sewer. So we are working towards getting that sewer over to Phase 3 so that piece of the project can get started. So that's mainly what the public works inspections are for the subdivisions. Add that to our normal other projects and you can see that our inspectors are quite busy. I've even had to step in a couple times to make sure that the concrete pours didn't get rescheduled. As far as other things, like I said, we keep an eye on projects going around us. Tarrant County has projects. There's no information on those. Fort Worth keeps with their projects. I watch the Fort Worth planning agendas and the council agendas, City Plan Commission as well. Anytime there's a project nearby, I make sure that it's going to first of all, what they're doing, what they're adding to the area, as Fort Worth does, and then also in the case of potential impacts to Haslet, such as if there's going to be a drainage issue upstream in Fort Worth, we want to make sure that that doesn't impact Haslet. That's one of the things that I've worked closely with Fort Worth on. We've also been trying to improve our communication between Haslet and Fort Worth, especially when there's road projects or road closures taking place, to make sure that things don't occur at the same time. And then also, because Avondale Haslet Parkway project is such a regional connector, we've been working with Fort Worth to get that section pushed over to 287. So that way, from 287 to 170, you have a connector route that can actually feed North Tarrant County across the county. So they're working on a build grant for that portion. We've on the Haslet Parkway project, the environmental clearance was already complete over to Sendera Ranch, so that saves them some time. And we're working closely with Fort Worth to make sure that the Haslet project and a Fort Worth project benefits both cities. Let's see, TxDOT projects. We do have the off-system bridge replacement, which is right just north of downtown. So the street will be closed right there at 2nd and Main. That is supposed to take place at the end of this month. TxDOT has not informed us of the new closing time. There is a utility conflict that needs to be taken care of before they can get in there, but it has not affected the end date of the project. It still appears that will be scheduled for June, assuming a relatively normal spring. They'll put in new box culverts, they'll put in a new road surface. It will be wider through there. It will be able to take additional traffic and hopefully not be as closed as often when the spring rains come. My final thing is just the completed projects. I've kept that running list for 5 years, 4 years and 364 days. Tomorrow's my 5-year time anniversary. So that's just a running list of what's been completed. With that, I can answer any more questions if you have any.
Any council member have a question or anything else you want to say at this point?
I just like to say I appreciate Travis, you giving this update and the good job. You're doing a terrific job, and it's 5 years has gone by fast. Glad to have you on the team, though.
Thank you.
This is Councilmember Morrow. I had one question about the park tennis courts. Right now it says that you're still evaluating bids. Is there a timeline? Are they trying to get one additional bid to get that multi-use pavement down, or what's the status on that?
We have all bids in-house now. What we're running up against is a state policy for general law cities on when projects need to be publicly bid versus when they can be done by quotes. So we're trying to work through the Texas Buy Board to find where we can keep the project within state guidelines and not run afoul of anything. And I've worked with Rob Alabon, city attorney, on that. So we're working through that right now. But we're hopeful in the near future to get that volleyball court converted to some type of multi-sport court surface.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mayor, this is Councilmember Hilborn. I have another question for Travis.
Go ahead.
Travis, regarding the Caraway Nature Trail, I see from your recent report that you're working to integrate the Caraway project's existing trails into our overall design. Can you update us on how the overall trail design will impact our park system in the future?
Ultimately, we want to have a connected trail system throughout the city. That tends to run into issues when you're looking at things like developments that don't connect, or pieces that may not be there that you anticipate in the future. Similar to how the Trinity Trail system. Just now, the Trinity Trail system connects Dallas and Fort Worth. There was a piece missing in Arlington for many years, so that you technically could ride your bike from Dallas to Fort Worth now. So that's the type of thing we're looking at. But the Caraway Nature Trail, they put in a portion of a trail and then started to run into grading problems. And without going too far into the design, they have stopped their trail right now. So I'm integrating that into a concept that I had back about 2 years ago of putting in a trail around that area that was dedicated to the city with minimal impact. That's the goal there. And also creating some type of pavilion at the peak of the hill, basically kind of overlooking the entire city. Definitely can see the airport from there. Would be a great viewing spot for the air show. Would be able to look over the Caraway project, look down towards Watercress and the Vines, and then also over to the existing subdivisions in Haslet Park. A big piece of the trail system in Haslet was completed with that tap trail. The FM 156 improvements are going to extend those improvements around the city. So we're looking at different ways to integrate that, and especially with future developments. The comprehensive plan does show kind of a trail network, future trail network. So we're looking at kind of integrating all that at once. But since that land was dedicated in Caraway, that's what I'm looking at now, is how to get a trail in there that meets accessibility standards, but also with minimal destruction of what's there, because that is a pretty serene area. It's a creek. It's got trees. The doves sitting there a lot. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Travis, Mayor, I do have one more question for Travis. We talked about the road replacement in Haslet Park previously. I wonder if you could share with us how it was that Haslet Park came to be the first or got the priority to have their streets replaced. Did you evaluate all the streets in the city for their condition and replacement or rejuvenation needs?
It was previous to me. There was a report done in 2015 that basically ranked all the streets within the city. When I arrived in 2016, I took that report and basically reevaluated it, confirmed certain things and moved other things around. So Brentwood Park was the first subdivision, and I say first, I mean the streets that had the most damage that needed to be replaced. Brentwood Park, and then Haslet Park was shortly behind it. Had that opportunity in 2018 to do both part of Haslet Park and Brentwood Park through other agreements through Tarrant County. Blue Mound Road has been redone. Avondale Haslet has gotten some improvements. Schoolhouse Road has gotten some improvements. So there's a running list. Obviously, that list gets updated as time goes on. Some other things that were done in Ashmore Farms, there was a pavement rejuvenation project that kind of gave it a little bit more life. So that's the reason that Haslet Park was second on the list. It was strictly on a scale of 1 to 10. Here's where the streets rank. Here's the ones we need to attack first. And then you try to group things together so that you get a cost savings. The larger the project, the more cost savings there are.
Are these road improvements, of course, are paid out of the property taxes that we collect from our residents, but also there's a share that comes through sales tax through the street maintenance taxes, is that something that benefits our street repairs?
Yes, the Brentwood Park improvements and Haslet Park in 2018 was a combination of the street maintenance sales tax and also property taxes. This new project that's coming up, starting here in a few months, is almost 100% and should be 100% out of the street maintenance sales tax, and that's a quarter cent of the sales tax. So to explain sales tax in a quick nutshell, 8.25 cents from every dollar goes to sales tax. 6.25 cents of that goes to the state. That's the state gets that sales tax first. And then the cities can decide what they're going to do with that other 2%. Haslet, the first percent goes to the general fund. 0.5% goes to type A EDC, no, type B EDC. And then a quarter cent goes to type A EDC and a quarter cent goes to the street tax. So that's where you get your 2 cents. That's what the city can use out of sales tax. And that's sales tax on a multitude of things, everything from, bread at the Dollar General. Well, I guess that's a bad example. Bread's not, let's say Coke at Dollar General, up to sales tax on construction items and developments.
You don't have to live in Haslet to pay Haslet sales tax. You just buy something in Haslet.
That is very true.
Okay, if we could go on to item 7, y'all are okay with that? Staff reports to update on active items, projects, and event recaps. The first item is 7A, update on the coronavirus COVID-19 issues. Jim and Kurt.
Yes, Chief Mays is going to tell you what we've been doing regarding park signs.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Not many changes, if any, to previous reports, but again, we are still in phase 2 of opening Haslet with no signs of changing until June 1. City Hall, court window, and library is open to the public from 10 a to 3 p. Monday through Friday. In-person meetings are still discouraged, but can occur by an appointment. We are not opening the community center up to programs, exercise classes, or for the senior adults at this point. Public Works staff continues the staggered start-stop times. And starting February 1, the playgrounds and park restrooms will be open to the public. Verbiage for the signs that will be posted in the city parks and baseball fields have been approved and will be ordered soon. The main body of the message reads as follows. Be aware the city does not have the capability to sanitize the equipment. Please remember to continue practicing good hygiene and to stay home if you're sick. This includes maintaining social distancing, wearing a face mask, and avoiding commonly shared items. There's some other general housekeeping comments that are on the sign as well. So thank you, Travis, for getting that all put together. Fire department members that have not received the vaccine, which was only around 10, have been advised they will soon be mixed in with the public waiting list if they don't receive the vaccine, probably by this week. Citizens wanting the vaccine should contact Tarrant County Public Health or pre-register at tarrantcounty.com/COVID shot to see if they qualify for the vaccination. I know Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem have each received the vaccination and had a good report on that. And I'll jump down to Rob. Do you have a report on the open meetings?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Rob. No new information. The governor extended the disaster declaration on January 5th for another 30 days, which will carry us through our first meeting in February. I expect on February 4th, he'll take action again, likely to further extend based on the way things are going, but I will keep you posted as that comes out, but nothing new to report other than that.
Rob, do we know on the city election in May, is there any issues going with that we know of?
I have not heard anything yet, but that's a great thing I'll keep my eyes and ears open on if anything is brewing or anything that comes out about that. I've not seen anything yet dealing with the May election and
This
COVID related.
is City Secretary Buchanan. I have an entity meeting with Tarrant County Elections, who we contract with to administer our elections this week. I do know that they intend to conduct the vote center as we did in the election in November at the former Haslet Elementary facility in Haslet. And any other information that is forthcoming, I will be glad to provide to staff and post on our website as soon as it is received.
Thanks, Diana.
All right, thank you. Again, the mask order and disaster declaration run currently through February 28th, and we will discuss future city special events in item 9E. That is the end of my report.
Mayor,
This
I
is the
have
mayor. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Trish.
go ahead. I was going to ask if our library director would tell us how things are going being open 10 to 3. What is the public's reaction to being able to come back in again? Is it generally upbeat? And how about programs? I know you have some online programs. How are those coming?
Well, all of our programs are online. Most of them are going really well, especially the story time. The take-home crafts are the favorite, I think, of everything. We're averaging probably 100 a day coming in from the 10 to 3, so it's going really well. We're open for just the curbside service from 8 to 5, and that still stays almost as active as it was prior to being open. So things are going well.
Thank you.
This is the mayor. I just wanted to add a couple of minutes of details to the shot process itself. As Kurt mentioned, Kathleen and I had signed up on the website back in mid-December. We got a text a week ago, Sunday, that we were supposed to show up last Wednesday in Arlington. I think Kathleen was actually disappointed. She expected a 4 or 5 hour ordeal. From the time we showed up at the eSport Stadium, which is an old arena kind of thing. So it's a big building with a lot of room inside. We walked in and walked out within an hour, and that's including the 15 minutes they make you sit on your honor after you get the shot to make sure there's no allergic reaction. So it was a very pleasant experience. The system does work. We were signed up under 1B for 65 and older in Texas. I think CDC said 75 and older. The state of Texas said 65 and older, and that's how we were deemed eligible. We sit in on a weekly call with the county judge. On the call last Wednesday, the county health director made the comment that on the 30th of December, they had 33,000 people sign up. I believe that's correct. Let me look at my notes real quick. It might have been 44,000 people signed up on December 30th alone. And they had over 330,000 in the queue for their first shot as of last Wednesday. So the system is starting to work. We're just limited by the number of sites and the people giving them and the vaccine. But I feel confident that although there might have been a major hiccup in the beginning, that the system's starting to work well. And I'll turn it over, Mayor Pro Tem. Do you have any comments you'd like to make from your experience at Hearst?
It went just as you described, almost identically. It took us just 1 hour from the time we left the car till the time we got back, and we'd had our first dose. Everybody was, I think, went out of their way to make it smooth as possible, friendly. Everybody was social distancing properly, wearing masks. And we got the injection from a Keller Fire Department EMT, so that made it even more special. Appreciated that.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from any council member on coronavirus COVID-19 update? Hearing none, let's go to 7B, the Alliance Texas Haslet Accessibility Improvement Project, ATH AIP monthly report. Thad.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. What y'all have in y'all's packet is a condensed version of the report. We've covered a lot of ground. You can always go back and read that if you want, but I just thought for readability, it'd be a lot easier if we condensed it down to what we're working on currently. If you go down.
Pardon me, Thad, would you identify this project as Haslet Parkway?
Yes, this is what we primarily call it Haslet Parkway. It got a big fancy name that we didn't have a lot to say about when we applied for the build grant. So that's why it's officially the Alliance Texas Haslet Accessibility Improvement Project. But primarily this is Haslet Parkway running from I-35 and 170 as a 4-lane divided parkway over to 156. And then it will also include the extension of Intermodal Parkway where it currently terminates at Transport Drive, tying down into this new facility. And then we will also be expanding Avondale Haslet from 156 to just about 3,000 feet, is it, Travis, before the curve. For safety reasons, we don't go all the way into the curve with the expansion. And that's what Travis was talking about, us tying in with Fort Worth in the future. So, but yes, ma'am, it is Haslet Parkway is primarily what we call this one. If you go to the second page of the report, the PED blackout, and again, we've got a lot of people on the call. This is the project end date blackout. There was a financing issue between TxDOT and the federal government. Tarrant County stepped in to fill that gap. We have been partially reimbursed. TxDOT has been fully reimbursed. And within this first quarter, we expect that last $300,000 to come in to Haslet, which will make the general fund whole on the project and at least partially pay back Type A for the money they put in for that period. On the construction update, really the only thing, we've got 2 AFAs we're working on. We have construction management services that will be Kimley Horn answering questions as we go along through this project since they designed it. There will be an AFA for that that'll run through Travis's office. I think it may be an amendment. I can let him speak to that in a minute. And then we still have our construction AFA, the 3-party agreement. As I had previously reported, we're not going to amend our current advanced funding agreement with TxDOT. It will be an entirely new agreement with TxDOT and the Regional Transportation Council, which is part of COG. Again, that's just going to be an entirely new agreement, but we won't cancel our existing agreement until that one is in place. Right now, they are working on the language between COG and TxDOT. We're monitoring, but we're not involved in that process. Right-of-way acquisition, we know phase 1 is closed. We have all our title policies now. That is completely done. Phase 2, Rob and I have been working on a plan. We've actually gotten some information from Freeze and Nichols. They are doing, on the TxDOT side, they are doing construction engineering and management under contract to TxDOT. And they have provided us with some direction to focus on certain parcels where franchise utilities are located or will be located. That will actually allow us to expand our time if we end up with condemnations or other issues in the acquisitions, as long as we get those parcels closed. So Rob and I had a good conversation today, and we have a solid plan to actually get this done and not panic like we have over the last 24 to 30 months. So I'm very excited about that. Let's see, BNF phase 1 gas lines. Sunoco is out of the way. Their project was completed and they came in, I think it was $23,000 under budget, and sent us a check that Marcy has put back into those bond funds for the project. XTO has delivered materials to the site. Their crew is hung up on another job, so they have said it's going to be first week in February. We have informed TxDOT of that. Since we still do not have a notice to proceed to Zachary Construction, it's not impactful at this time. So again, my job is to make sure that we're not hanging them up as we go forward while we wait on XTO to complete that work. And then again, we were talking about doing a groundbreaking event. With the spike in numbers and the information from the chief, we are going to delay that. We had meetings with Hillwood and discussed this, and it's not even really about what we want because this is such an exciting project. It's who would be willing to show up under the current conditions. So until we are able to safely hold that event, we have delayed that. And I will answer any questions you may have.
This is Mayor Pro Tem. Would you just cover briefly why it is we're even doing this project, what the overall budget is, and why is the Council of Government supporting this project?
Yes, sir. This project is a connection. When State Highway 170 was canceled, it left the west side of I-35 with no connectivity. So you've got a lot of people who live in Fort Worth and drive through Haslet and beat up the streets that we have currently. Again, Blue Mound and some of those roads. This road will provide a connection like North Tarrant Parkway does, the start of a grid on the western side of I-35. So again, this connects 170. It's not going to be a 170 facility. It's within 120-foot right-of-way. Again, I mentioned that earlier. It is a 4-lane divided concrete parkway. You're not going to have a highway running through at 60 miles an hour. Its design speed is 45. And then again, we have the connection that's being made from intermodal down to this facility. That section of concrete, the intermodal extension, as well as that intersection and over to I-35 is built as a heavy truck route. We have a lot of heavy trucks that come all the way through Haslet and drive all over the place. We are creating a facility that will allow the trucks to come out of the BNSF yard, not disperse through Haslet, and instead come down this facility and out to 35 and 170. The reason this project came about primarily is we were trying to find a way to fund it. And that's where COG came in. We applied with their assistance for a build grant because we just could not find the funds to build a $59 million facility on our own. We received, with again COG's huge support, $20 million build grant. That is a huge portion of the project, but there was still a lot to do. So Tarrant County committed $2 million. TxDOT has committed some funds to the intersections at 35 and 156. Those are the areas, since it will eventually be a city street, those are the areas where they can put their funds into it. And again, the size is also why TxDOT is letting this project. It will eventually be city streets. It's not going to be State Highway 170 or FM anything. It's going to be Haslet Parkway and intermodal. But it was just a project beyond what we could manage as a small city. The funding was just beyond our control. So we're putting in funds for the project through a TERS. We also have participation with Tarrant County and the Tarrant County College on that TERS. So what we thought was going to be take about 20 years to pay back and be around $12 million. Because of the participation, we believe it will retire 7 years ahead of that schedule. We will be putting in about 3.9. Tarrant County will be putting in 3, and Tarrant County College will be putting in $7 million. So we are building a major connectivity project to move people and goods through Haslet on a facility that keeps them off our residential streets and really allows for a growth in this area that, again, that makes sense. Did that answer your question more?
Yes. So could you talk about maybe what we see as the economic benefits of this road?
The economic benefits of this road, it opens up almost 1,100 acres that was previously had no infrastructure. In addition to the 4-lane divided parkway, we are putting in water and sewer with this. We have landowner participation in the primary area where it comes from I-35 over to Schoolhouse Road. They are contributing funds to help pay for that water and sewer. Again, we'll front that through the EDCs, and that will get paid back to the city over time. So The economic impact will be huge. We already have, it was contingent on this road happening, the 1.4 million square feet of intermodal commerce park. They would not have built without this facility being planned and coming online. There's another 500,000 square feet already planned for the north part of Caraway, which is part of their PD that is permitted. So we expect as time goes on, as the community grows, as the area continues to grow, that we will see a lot of those things that we're looking for. We anticipate we'll see the local services at the corners. Again, that will take time to develop, but it also creates four corners over at I-35. It creates a backer road with Harmon Road. So the potential is enormous for Haslet to be able to actually capture that growth along 35 that was otherwise likely to pass it by.
Thad, for folks that haven't been on, in on this from the beginning, can you just take a second? You mentioned TERS. Explain to us what a TERS is and how we're going to pay back the $3 million that Haslet's responsible for.
Tax increment reinvestment zone was created across the area that is going to benefit from this project. Again, the primarily vacant land that was sitting out there. And it is a zone where, again, there's nothing happening without this investment. So council created this, and all new growth that happens in this project, part of the tax money that's generated goes into a special fund. In our case, because we wanted to make sure we could pay for essential services, we are contributing 50% of this new revenue. So again, any revenue that's currently being generated on that land will continue to go fully in the general fund. We're not taking anything off of the tax rolls. It is that increment. There's a whole class on this, and I don't want to bore everybody, but it's that increment. It's that new growth and the new revenue that is generated after the TERS is created that goes into the fund to pay back the $6.9 million that is being borrowed from the RTC. So again, as the intermodal commerce park comes online, because the road was rerouted out of the Sunset Trade Center, the 900,000 square feet on Westport Parkway, this project actually did have a direct impact. It is included as well. So as those projects come onto the tax rolls, that new revenue will be split 50% between your general fund and 50% into this fund until it is paid off. And again, with Tarrant County and TCC participating, it's anticipated this will happen at least 7 years ahead of the 20-year schedule. So that's kind of the basics of what a TERS is. We didn't include any residential, existing residential property, so no one who is currently paying taxes in Haslet on their home will be impacted by this in a negative way. That was kind of our goal the entire time, was to not have this impact the existing residents, for them to pay for a road that they may or may not really use, because everybody kind of has their set patterns, but we knew it was needed in the region.
Thank you, sir. Anyone on council have any questions or comments with regard to the ATH-AIP?
Thad, you mentioned the build grant, but you didn't tell us the source of the build grant.
That is federal money. That is from the Federal Highway Administration. So again, we have $20 million in federal money. We have state money. We have the county helping, and then we have the local funds. So again, there were a lot of partners on this, but that was a federal grant that we received the funding from.
Anything else? Let's go to item number 8, the consent agenda. The only item is 8A, approval of the January 4th, 2021 regular city council meeting minutes. Any comments, corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Councilmember Clark. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Mayor Pro Tem seconds.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call vote. Warren Robb.
Aye.
Jessica Clark.
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn.
Aye.
Tanya Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. 9, public hearings, ordinances, and action items. I'm going to take a second here because we've got a lot of folks who want to participate, and I understand that, but I want to explain the process in that what we're going to do is I'm going to read the item, then we're going to get a staff presentation, and then we'll turn it over to the developer for his presentation, and then I'll open the public hearing. So be patient because we want to make sure we all understand what the project entails. So item 9A, hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act on a rezoning request of 294.02 acres situated in the Eldridge, Hopkins, and W.M. Scott surveys from agricultural AG to planned development to allow single-family residential, commercial, and public uses. The property is generally located north of Blue Mound Road, approximately 1 mile east of FM 156 and a half mile west of Harmon Road within the city of Haslet, Tarrant County, Texas. I'll turn it over to Wes Morrison for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. As stated, this is a request for a planned development zoning district. The base zonings in this district would be your residential 2 zoning district and your neighborhood commercial zoning district. In November, the Planning and Zoning Commission conducted their public hearing and took public comment on this case. Numerous cases came up during that public hearing, or numerous issues came up during that public hearing. Those involved the use of a multifamily within the original request, setbacks and to existing gas wells, proposed landscape standards, and then also just overall density of the project was raised. At that November meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously voted to continue the case to allow the applicant some time to revise his request after hearing that public comment. And the applicant came back in December, early December, with a revised application. In that application, some of the changes that were proposed and that were ultimately accepted by Planning and Zoning Commission were just clarification of gas well setbacks. There's some language in there identifying the approved plant list that's going to be allowed for buffer trees. Also, there was some language in the development standards added in regarding architectural standards and different standards that we may not have seen here in Haslet in the past. And then the biggest change was related to Village 1, or the urban residential area that was slated as multifamily use in the original application. The applicant provided Planning and Zoning Commission with 2 different alternatives to that area. At their December meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the revised plan development application with 2 conditions. One condition being that between all commercial and residential areas, that there's a masonry wall required, similar to what we already require currently in our zoning ordinance. And then the second condition is that Village 1, or that otherwise referred to as urban residential, that area be limited to single-family uses, single-family detached residential uses on 50-foot lots. And they specifically removed any language regarding the multifamily use being allowed. Let me kind of step into a little bit of what the request looks like today that is up for your consideration. The applicant has proposed a, like I said, 294-acre development with a maximum of 588 single-family lots. Just for your benefit, a maximum of 270 of those lots would be a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. A maximum of 130 of those lots would be a minimum lot area of 8,750 square feet. And then in Villages 3, the applicants provided for a minimum number of 75 lots being 11,200 square feet. And in Village 4, a minimum of 25 lots being 18,000 square feet in size. The one thing I want to point out is obviously that doesn't add up to 588, so there's going to be a flexible number in there somewhere that the developer, as they lay out the development, they can figure out what the lot range best plays in for their benefit. Also included in this plan development is a commercial area along Haslet Parkway that is going to be 5 acres in size. That'll be on the east side of the development, closest to Interstate 35. Also, there's going to be a 3.8 acre area on the northwest portion of the property along Haslet Parkway that's going to be dedicated to office, restaurant, or some sort of public district. And then a minimum of 60 acres, including 2.5 miles of trails, are also provided for in the plan. When we're always looking at rezoning requests, we always look to see what our comprehensive plan, our long-range plan calls for. And in this area, it is determined that it's a medium-density residential area. The comprehensive plan also states that when you're looking at developments and you want to encourage a flexibility in development, the gross density or the open space subdivision option could allow for a flexibility in lot sizes if certain criteria are met, meaning more open space, parks, trails, amenity center, etc. Based on the development standards that have been provided and the various alternatives that were permitted, the gross density of this project does meet the 2 units per acre threshold, and therefore meets the goals of the comprehensive plan. The one thing I would state out, and I know we've got a lot of other comments coming in under the applicant's going to lay out their plan as well. One thing that staff would encourage, well, 2 things I'd encourage. One, if the council sees fit to accept Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, that a condition be added to your request or your approval tonight, that the applicant will have to clean up their development standards. As I've stated previously, the development standards include several alternatives. And so we want to make sure that whatever is approved tonight, the development standards clearly state out. Not saying that it's not clear to staff today, but when you're looking at these things, you got to make sure that staff 10, 20 years from now know exactly what's been approved and everything. So that's why I just like that clarification in there. Also, I'd like to point out that, you know, in tonight's job for us is to look at land use, compatibility with the surrounding area, and to make sure it complies with the overall comprehensive plan for the city that the city's adopted about 5 years ago. I know that there's, like there was in Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, there'll be a lot of comments about traffic improvements and drainage improvements and whatnot. Well, I understand that's important, and that's something that staff has looked at preliminary at this point. I just want to make sure that tonight's job is really to look at the zoning and whether the particular uses and the development standards that are to govern those uses are appropriate and what Haslet wants to see as they move forward. Planning and Zoning Commission, as I stated, recommended approval with the 2 conditions. One, the masonry wall requirement, and then the second one, that the Village 1 or the urban residential area be limited to single-family residential uses only on 50-foot lots. I'd also like to clarify, and I apologize for any confusion on this when I was recording the vote at Planning and Zoning Commission. It's just me being new and realizing how we record votes here. But the vote from Planning and Zoning Commission were that 3 members voted in favor, 1 voted against it. There was 1 person that was not able to vote due to technical difficulties, and then the alternate member did vote against it as well. This is something that normally you would not record alternate votes. Here it seems like it's been a practice, so I wanted to continue with that practice. Talking to Rob, talking to Jim, that may be something we look at in the future, but I want to be consistent with how we did things, at least tonight. With that being said, again, I know there's a lot of people on the call that want to speak, and I know the applicant wants to speak. I can answer any questions that you have.
Why don't we go to the applicant and ask him to make his presentation before we get into Q&A, if that's okay with council. Okay, applicant, you have the floor.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Hey there, members of council. This is Brett Pettigo with Terramana. Our address is 101 Clarendon Ranch Road in Southlake, Texas, 76092. And we appreciate the time to be here. We wish we were in person. We always feel like it's better, and I know everybody's ready to get back to those days. So we are right there with you, but we appreciate the time in going through this particular plan. And the one thing I wanted to make sure and go through real quickly is just some of the high level notes. And if you don't mind me asking, Diana or Wes, I don't know, did you want me to open up my version of that, or do you want to pull up the plan on your computer? I don't know what's the right thing to do, but I'm happy to take over and put together the proposal. That way everybody can see my screen. So
Mr.
if everybody can see.
This is Diana. Yes, sir. I have given you presentation rights. So if you would pull that up, and everyone will be able to see that on your screen.
Okay. Can everybody see that on my screen right now?
Not
Just
yet,
making
Brett.
sure. Okay, now I see. Sorry, there was one thing I needed to click on there. So I think now you guys should be able to see my screen. Is that correct?
We do. You just need to show the presentation in your window. There
Very
you
good.
go.
All right. Thank you guys for your patience on that. It's always different going through this. As we've done in all of our development presentations, we've always, and it's harder to see in these pictures and on the screen, but we always kind of come up with a inspirational picture of kind of what we want to see and really what our vision is for this area. And if you think about it, we have two main corridors that are going to be traversing this property. On the north end, it's going to be Haslet Parkway, and on the south end is Blue Mound Road. And I'll kind of begin on Blue Mound Road and talk about that a little bit. But this picture that you see on the screen was kind of one of the visual items that kind of shows a view of a similar view of a similar type development that has a bridge that runs through it, which our development is going to have a bridge that runs through it with Haslet Parkway. And then the riparian and the stream area with a landscaped area tucked in next to that. And so we found this picture, and that's really what's been our inspiration and what we've been moving toward as you drive down Haslet Parkway, that we don't have houses pressed right up against the Haslet Parkway. You're seeing that, and we've buffered those areas not only from Haslet Parkway, but we've also pushed all of our development as far to the east as we can to try to buffer some of the neighbors from our west. So, just for an example of a dimension, just to throw it out, along Haslet Parkway, it's about 2 football fields from the first house that's on the south side of Haslet Parkway all the way across to Haslet Parkway. And in that area, we will have the pretty things that we always build that you've seen in all of our developments, whether it's Caraway's entry feature, what you see being built at Watercrest right now along Blue Mound Road, or even in some of our other developments across DFW. You see these beautiful images where people like to gather and take pictures, and you see groups from homecoming, and it's just we create areas where people want to gather. So when you're driving down the road or driving down Haslet Parkway in Blue Mound, I just want everybody to be reminded of all these pretty things that we build and why everybody enjoys seeing those. And that's what we plan to put along Haslet Parkway and Blue Mound Road. Blue Mound Road, the buffer is a little bit smaller than what we have on Haslet Parkway, but we also have some natural topography that we're playing with. But we've still got about 100-foot landscape buffer out in front of the development on the south side along Blue Mound. But what we're going to do is tuck the lots down, and I'll show you some details of that here in a minute. But tuck the lots down and kind of build those down so that you still got those vistas viewing across the top of those homes. But you're still going to have that soft look that we've tried to create along Watercress and along Caraway, along Blue Mound Road. So it's a much more pleasing drive as you drive down that road. So with that being said, Bobby Harrell is on the presentation, Zoom presentation with us tonight, my partner. You've seen a lot of our work, Caraway, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on some of our project experience, but some of the pretty areas that I talk about in our developments. We build what we say we're going to go build. That's the number one thing, and I think by now that if y'all have seen us and seen what we've committed to go build, we try to beat or exceed that, and that's our goal, is to provide that to the community, because that's just our namesake, and that's how we do our business. These are always the principles that we hold to. Every time I've been before you, I've presented these as far as building the highest quality developments, our attention on detail, and then putting together a superior plan that's timeless. And I'm going to use the word sustainable a lot in my development discussion tonight. And I think that's something that for you guys, y'all are focused on along with us. The focus on the history while planning for the future. That's an important element every time we go in, and then creating memorable communities for our residents. This is where everybody calls home. This is where they raise their kids. This is where you live your life, and we want it to be a special place. We've got a great team of engineers and planners. Everybody that's on our team on this project has been on our team on Caraway, on Watercress, and we look forward to carrying them through on this development as well. And then, the one thing that I would say is, and people don't view this as strongly, but when we are involved, we can create an extra level of governance through our HOA documents, through our building standards, that make sure that the community has a higher level of standard than just the base zoning that we have. So we always make those commitments to you to put those in our HOA documents. We've done some things in the past where we create development agreements to make sure that those standards get enforced even after we're gone. So this is a focus for us in all of our communities to make sure that when we have a vision and we go to build that vision, that it gets carried through all the way through the development. The main thing I want to start with is, is this a good thing for Haslet? And I'm going to tell you why I think it's a good thing for Haslet. And then I'll go through the plan. But, one of the main things we've heard over the years, because we've been in Haslet for a long time, we've heard a lot of different presentations. We've heard comments from residents. But, I remember like it was yesterday when we were going through on Caraway, somebody saying that developers never build the roads timely and get the roads built in time for traffic. And so, the one thing that you guys have done a great job, and a lot of the residents may not understand what goes into these zoning presentations and the documents that we provide, the studies that we do, to make sure that when we put something before you, that it's well thought out, that it's got the studies to back up and make sure that the impact that it makes on the community is not a negative impact. So, for example, on the roadways, on Caraway, we built Haslet. We had a contribution of right-of-way and the cost that goes towards Haslet Parkway to be a developer participation. We built Harmon Road. We rebuilt the intersection at at Harmon and Blue Mound Road. And then we also gave right-of-way for Intermodal Parkway to meet the master thoroughfare plan. Watercress, we built Blue Mound Road. And then now on this project, the great thing about where its proximity is that we get to connect all those dots. So Haslet Parkway, one of the main routes that you can get north to Haslet Parkway would have been Harmon Road. With this proposed development, we're able to add intermodal into that, where now there'll be a connection of a thoroughfare that's per your thoroughfare plan and has been thought of for years and years and years, is being built now to have a traffic pattern that goes from Blue Mound Road, now with the connection of Haslet Parkway and intermodal all the way to Westport Parkway. So you'll have that north-south connection that's being made. In addition to that, we'll be adding to the extension of Blue Mound Road, where we now build Blue Mound Road all the way over to Intermodal Parkway, just as it's being built right now in front of Watercrest. So you'll have a continuous new roadway from Intermodal all the way back to the west end of Watercrest development. And then also our participation on water and sewer that we talked about with, or that was talked about earlier with Haslet Parkway. We have a contribution along the frontage of the developable land along Haslet Parkway that we help and participate on this project, just like we did on Caraway. And then the spine road that we're building through the middle of this also will provide an east-west connector where our residents don't have to utilize intermodal to go north-south. So it brings them all the way to Blue Mound or to Haslet Parkway without them having to get on some of the other streets. So we're kind of taking care of all the traffic needs and actually improving the traffic because we're building other thoroughfares that serve the overall greater good with our development. In the past, what I've seen is cities that focus on one type of lot size or one type of development. You just don't have the ability to build the roadways like these type of projects do. I think that was some of the issues in the past. Haslet was building these certain type of products and not diversifying their projects. They weren't getting the roadways built with the projects, and then all the development around the edge of Fort Worth comes in and creates all these traffic issues. We're playing catch up, but our development is helping Haslet play catch up with these roadways that we're building. But the traffic that's being generated on a lot of your roads is not from Haslet, it's from the city of Fort Worth. So Haslet Parkway, just so you know, is a huge benefit for this development. And if Haslet Parkway wasn't going forward, I think some of the concerns for traffic that I've heard through the planning and zoning would be a realistic standard. But Haslet Parkway is going forward, and that's where I think everybody needs to focus on how the traffic patterns get out in the future, because this development, even if we started today, wouldn't have the first house on the ground for 18 months. So, we're looking at a long plan here and a long development time frame that allows us to go and look in the future and try to see in the future how the road patterns. And luckily, all of your ordinances, your requirements for us to submit this make us go look in the future. And so I'm glad that we have that process and has it. The landscape buffer I mentioned along Blue Mound and before that's on this proposal. But the main thing I wanted to also talk about is the pedestrian connectivity. I heard somebody talk about the trail connectivity. I'm going to show you a graphic in a minute of all the trails we've built within Haslet and how this property then ties all those in and connects all those in. But just this project alone, we're going to be building over 2.5 miles of trails. And then, as the comp plan suggests, we diversify product offerings for housing while maintaining 2 units per acre per density. We were close to 2 units per acre density when we first came into P&Z. We heard their comments. We heard the residents' comments. And so with our revised plan, really the lot counts is really more around 490 to 500 units. And that's about a 1.6 to 1.7 units per acre is what we're looking at on the development. So that lot cap that we talked about that Wes mentioned before, that's kind of an antiquated number that went along when we had the multifamily. We'd be happy to pull that back down because I think that's the cleanup that Wes was mentioning. But, if you look at a half-acre lot development, you're going to see that those produce about 1.6, 1.75 units per acre. The key element in this is we're not necessarily saying because of these lot sizes, we're trying to get more lots. What we're trying to say is it's a different way of doing development. And, our lot count is about the same as if we were to do a half-acre lot development. So you're not talking about we're doing more kids because of our development. We're not talking about we've got more traffic. All we're talking about is the configuration of the lots and the land to form and build our sustainable development. One thing that we need to look, if you really look at, this is not a value equation. And, our lots, we're selling our lots in this development at the same price we're selling half-acre lots for. So it's not that you're getting an increased house price on the increased lot size, but you also have less maintenance in the future for maintaining roadways, water, sewer. You've got water. We always talk about every time when it gets hot and we have water restrictions, all of our landscaping in our open space areas are covered by well water that we provide internally in our development. Those aren't coming off of the city's water system. Whereas if you are in a half-acre lot development and you're now irrigating that whole lot, a lot of those lots get irrigated with city water, not well water. So, I think this plan is a more sustainable development as we move forward. And I think that's why the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan tried to take those and give the developers the ability to mold this product and diversify this product, but still staying at an acceptable density that doesn't create issues with school traffic and cause problems that we hear all the time with major development. So I think y'all had that forethought years ago when you did the comp plan, and that was a public hearing. Everybody got to hear that, and these plans were adopted at that point. And we're just carrying out the plan that was put in motion a long time ago. So we're not recreating something here. We're not throwing out something here that's different. We're throwing out something that's built along the comp plan and the standards that were set out years ago. As I get into the development, I just want to make sure we always think about what our arrivals. So whenever you see these entry features, these are the primary views that people are seeing. This drawing is tilted on its side. So north is to my right. Haslet Parkway will be to my right, where you see the primary entry feature. And all the traffic is directed along those, but we're going to have those beautiful entry features that we always talk about on both ends of this development. The eastern arrival that you see on this won't be there because that was shown coming in off of Past Way with the urban development that we're no longer doing, but we're still going to have that sense of arrival. So along our spine road, we've pulled the lots back off of Spine Road, created open space on both sides with trails, so that when you're driving down those roads, you're seeing, pretty landscaping. You're not feeling like you're smushed in with houses right on top of you. Same thing with our major entryways. We've looked at the topography, how this all falls, and we're going to create some beautiful areas. These are our images that we're using as we're moving forward and putting into place. So we've got the ability within our development to create these beautiful areas of landscaping, of open space, but we got to provide that open space. So if we put them all in big lots and put them in people's backyards, we don't get to share this open space with the public. And so I think this is where the value equation that we try to present and why we're doing good things for Haslet is everybody gets to enjoy this open space. It's not just for our residents. This is public open space that we want to provide. These are just some other images that we are building into our plan for our entry features around our entries, around our open space and along our parks, next to our amenity centers. And this is kind of the architecture and look around our amenity center. I'm going to show you some 3D images of the amenity center here in a minute, but all of those came from these images in one form or fashion. So whether it's the sitting area at the bottom, that's an outdoor area for our residents to enjoy next to the pool, or it's the actual covered areas around the pool or around the water that they're going to enjoy. Again, just inspirational pictures that we use. So along Haslet Parkway, this is the first entry feature that we're going to show you. We actually have 2 of them, and we'll make a decision on those entries, but I think we're going to, right now, option 2 that I'm going to show you is what we're going to go with. But the reason we were looking at 2 of them is because we were studying the hydrology and how the water went under the bridge and trying to find the most efficient way to do this. So if this was option 1 and the water actually snakes around and then goes under the bridge, but based on the hydrology, we've done a study, we think that this option is the option that we'll go with. Again, that distance, just to give you some scale, that's about 2 football fields from Haslet Parkway and the intersection of Haslet Parkway and our entry road all the way over to these lots. This is a huge sign that'll be, our entry sign, but it sits out on this island that you're going to be overlooking the water, looking at that entry sign, similar to the pictures to the left, and then a trail system will go up to it. So, residents can go out there, sit, enjoy that community area, but it's also a very peaceful look along Haslet Parkway for those that are driving down Haslet Parkway. As you come further into the development, you're going to see our amenity center with our pool. Again, you would be driving in from the top portion of the property if you're coming from Haslet Parkway around the roundabout, looking over the pool, which sits out in the water. There will be a safety shelf along the edge of this in case there's somebody that falls in. We may also put some transparent bollards and other things to keep someone from jumping into the water. And then the area on the south side is more of an open space area for the residents to sit out and have lunch, dinner, or have entertainment and activities there. This is a larger facility than what you've seen at Caraway. It's a little bit larger than Watercrest as well that you've seen in concept form. And we've integrated more year-round and 4-season type options so that we're not just using it during the summer months when there's a pool. So that's been the main focus. This is kind of some 3D images of that area around the pool. Then I think I've got another one that kind of shows a different angle more from the open space area and the table area, kind of the west perspective. This is from the comp plan, just to kind of give everybody a reminder on that. I think everybody's probably seen this. This was kind of the land use plan that we originally proposed, and the brown area on the right side was the area that was the urban residential, which was a concept that allowed for a higher density type of development to take place in there. It was a multi-family development. They didn't look like regular apartments. Again, P&Z did not, and a lot of residents didn't want that. So we came back with a new plan that filled that area in with just more single-family lots, but put them in a form and fashion because that would be consistent with what's going to happen in the future. Per the future land use plan and concept plan, we have mixed-use development, which is on the east side of Intermodal Parkway. Mixed-use development on the west side. These 2 gas wells are being retained by the current owner of the property because he believes as the gas wells play out, this will be a mixed-use development corner, as well as the commercial on the north side of Haslet Parkway, commercial, retail, office type uses that are going to happen on the north side of Haslet Parkway. So this intersection of Intermodal and Haslet Parkway is going to be a very intense use. So we're again trying to provide our higher density product closer to that area, closer to the commercial along Haslet Parkway, and then transition our lots down as we get towards Blue Mountain Road. So along Blue Mountain Road, you'll see lots that are consistent with what we did in Caraway, as well as what we put in the vines and watercress along Blue Mountain Road to allow for those larger lots to be located there. The one unique thing that we have, as you all are aware, as you drive down Blue Mountain Road, that area sits up on a real tall hill with views to the north. So that first tier of lots, these first two cul-de-sacs that you see, we're probably going to bring those down a little bit from the grade of Blue Mountain Road, but there'll probably be a pretty large wall along the back of those lots where they have great vistas to the north. At our spine road, and as you drive down our spine road, you're going to be getting those same vistas. So that's why we pulled back that landscaping and that view corridor as you drive down that corridor to allow for those great views to the north as you're driving down the spine road. You'll also have it on Intermodal Parkway, but we're just trying to create a more favorable view as you drive down our spine road. And we put the roundabout in there to also kind of deter some of the cut through traffic. We think everybody will think, I would rather go intermodal. It's a straight shot to Haslet Parkway rather than coming through the residential streets of the neighborhood that we're building. But it is an option if there's a blockage in the road or some issue at intermodal, the spine road will provide another way of people to get to Haslet Parkway. The trail system and screening plan, during the council meeting, the planning and zoning meeting, it was brought to our attention. We were planning on doing it anyway, but it wasn't a part of the graphic. But along the commercial, along Haslet Parkway, we'll be providing a screening wall, as well as along intermodal. We don't own this property and couldn't retain ownership of that property, but I have a feeling it'll be it could be some type of commercial in the future. It's got a radio tower and everything on it right now, so we'll go ahead and build screening on that, just assuming that, so that in case something happens there. So this screening plan will be updated to reflect that screening wall if there's approval. Also along the single family that we added here, there will be a screening wall as well. The roadway plans, as we talked about, the spine road will be a collector road, which a collector roadway for your is almost the width of 3 lanes of traffic. That way, as people are turning left or right, there's kind of a middle turn area where you can make those turns where traffic keeps going both ways, north and south. That's for our spine road there. Haslet Parkway is a 4-lane divided roadway. Intermodal, we will be building 2 of those lanes north from Blue Mountain Road to Haslet Parkway, and then Blue Mountain Road and Intermodal will both be 2 lanes of traffic that we're building. The other 2 lanes will come in on the south side of the road as developed in the future. And then, there was a talk about the trail plan and how that's what I think I'm most excited about on this development, is that we were able to build our trail system where all the connection of watercress, the vines, these green lines are the trails that we're building, not including the sidewalks in front of each house, but also along Blue Mountain Road over to the future park area that was mentioned earlier in Caraway, through the public trails of Caraway, as well as the ones we'll be providing this development. So you basically would be able to get on a bike or walk if you wanted to go that far, and ride trails all the way up to Intermodal Parkway, which could then also, with the trail connections of Intermodal in the future, be able to get all the way up to Westport from our development. All the commercial retail along Caraway that's planned, be able to get on and make it more of a pedestrian friendly and not necessarily have to get in your car and drive to it. So I want to make sure that, as I end my portion of the presentation is, think about this from the same density as a half-acre lot development. We're just modifying this around our pricing on the lots, our pricing on the houses. There's not anything that we're doing that's going to modify that. We're just providing different type of product for the buyers when they come to the market. On our lowest price point in this development, there may be a loss leader that's from the 300s, like 399.9, but that's the way Caraway started out. And you know, they provide options and things like that in the homes. And today, I don't think you can buy a home in Caraway for less than 400. On the southern portion of the property, we're talking to some custom builders that would continue a plan from the Vines. Over there, their pricing is in the 500 to 700s. So generally speaking, I think you're going to see our development provide housing from 400 on the very low end to probably 750 to 800 on the high end of the development. The main thing, this is a large piece of property, and this is it'll take a long time to develop this out. So don't think that these houses are going to hit the ground and we're going to see all this happen all at once. It's going to take us several years. This is a 5 to 7 year build out on this. Caraway, if you think about Caraway, we got those approvals in 2015, 2016, and there's still some homes to be built there. So these are long builds. This isn't something that's going to hit all of a sudden and create some impact. And we've studied all those impacts and given that information to staff and everybody to help aid you in this decision. I just want to make sure that everybody focused on that these rooftops also support the commercial growth that you're wanting to see along 35 and Haslet Parkway. With that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions. If y'all have questions about the land use or any of these, how we came up with this plan. With that, Diana, I'm going to give you back control, and then I'll stay unmuted if there's questions, or if y'all want to move on to public comments, I'll wait and I'll mute myself now.
All right, Mr. Pittigo, thank you so much. This is City Secretary Buchanan. I would like to remind people that have recently arrived on this call that if you are not recognized for the floor, please mute your microphone. We are experiencing quite a bit of feedback right now. And Mayor Golden, I will give the floor back to you at this time.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, if you're okay with it, I'd like to go ahead and get the public comments, and then when the public comments are finished, we can go into our discussion and consideration. I'll give you a second. Anybody have an issue with that? Okay. What I have is a list of folks.
Hello, man.
I have a list of folks who had signed up via Diana earlier in the day, so I'm just going to start at the top of this list. I'm not really clear on how. I assume it was first come, first serve. So the first name I have on the list is Lisa McLeod, 313 Schreiber. And Lisa, if you're on the call, you have 3 minutes, and please adhere to Diana if she tells you your time is up, and close it up right after that. So Lisa,
Yes,
you have
Mr.
the
Mayor.
floor.
All right, I have a number of things. I know I sent each of you a letter with my exact objections. I'd like to speak a little bit to what Mr. Perigo said. One, the roads that they claim they built and improved are not conducive to the traffic that's going to cause. Just widening an intersection is not good. Blue Mound needed to be widened to 4 lanes. Bronze Ranch needed to be added to 4 lanes. Haslet Parkway is 800 feet off Odessa. That is going to be a nuisance and a noise, especially with all those trucks. Putting commercial right at the end over there, close to Odessa, we're going to have light and noise and a lot of other pollution. Also, I would like to remind the council that you are elected by the citizens. Please, please listen to the citizens this time. Do what the citizens ask and not what you want. The developer is not a resident of Haslet. His only care is dollars and profits. You, the council, must represent and protect this town and its residents. My also big concern is I'm in a floodplain. At the end of the subdivision on the east side of Haslet Park is a floodplain. When it rains really hard and fast, our drainage ditches fill up. Councilwoman Morrow, you live in this subdivision. My neighbors house across the street has a ditch almost as deep as yours by the driveway. It has been known to overflow because it goes so, there's so much rain. And it can't, and because the creek is full, we can't drain that fast. So you start adding more drainage from that new subdivision and you're gonna flood our houses. There's no way of getting around that. You are going to flood our houses. There will be lawsuits because it's been brought to your attention. And for some reason, you don't think it's important to address that issue or do an environmental study until after you grant the planned development. We have the 50 lots, that's too small. Haslet is known for their open lots. This 2 units per acre, we're talking lot sizes. We're not talking how many houses are within this subdivision. We're talking lot sizes. We're talking no open air. We're talking houses that are close enough together that you can pass sugar to the neighbor through the window. 1 acre, 43,000 square feet. That means we can put 7 houses on my 1 acre. Those of you that live in half acre, okay, you're going to get about 3+. Those of you that live on 5 or 5+ acres, you can put 35 houses on your 1 lot. Really, council, please think about this. This is not what Haslet is known for. This is not why people are moving here. And I challenge Mr. Perigo to give me one, because he's used the same exact verbatim quotes in both presentations for here and Caraway, that citizens of Haslet want to move to keep a Haslet address and move in. I challenge him to give me one name. If somebody wants to move from the city limits of Haslet, they're going to move out. They're not going to move to a house that they're not downsizing in because those houses are large.
Ms. McLeod, your time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate the time.
Yes. Mayor Golden.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could, sir, go ahead and give the floor, or ask you to give the floor to some people that have signed up over the chat. First, we have Miss Kitty Wertz.
Go ahead, Ms. Wertz.
Yeah. Yes, Kitty Wertz. I live at 205 Thistle Drive in the Meadow. And I moved to Haslet because I thought it was a beautiful community. I love the larger lots. I love the open air feel and the beautiful landscape that's around our neighborhood. I feel like this development is not conducive to what Haslet was built on. I feel like the density of this development is a misleading information when you say that the average is a 1/2 acre lot size. When you have 270 units that only have 50-foot wide lots, the point Lisa just made, if you look at how many of those fit into a 5-acre plot, you can see how dense that community would be. And no one spoke to the number of people that would live in these units that would overcrowd our streets. I agree, just putting turn lanes in on streets does not improve the flow of the traffic. And the flooding concern is a concern that hasn't truly been addressed. I feel like crime is also rising in Haslet, and I know for a fact my neighborhood is concerned about that, and we haven't even spoke to the increased staff that would be needed to police the general area. I am totally against this development, and I asked the city council to listen to the citizens tonight and vote according to their requests and desires. Promises made when we moved to this community was that our ordinance was on 1/2 acre lots. This plan is not 1/2 acre lots. I hope that the city council will have a change in mind and that they'll really listen to what's being said and vote accordingly to disallow this development. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Diana, did you have some more?
Yes, sir. Next would be Gary Halsey.
Mr. Halsey, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Council, I thank you understanding what people are saying here. You know, part of compliance with comprehensive plan out of the local government code from the state legislature, lessen congestion in the streets, prevent overcrowding of land, avoid undue concentration of population, secure safety from fire, panic, and other dangers, and other aspects as well. You know, as the engineer said earlier before this, your purpose is what the city wants. And as in your ethics, you're responsible to the citizens of Haslet. Please listen. The standards we accepted 5 years ago are half-acre lots, each home, single-family residence on a half-acre lot. These are the standards your constituents want. I've heard P&Z members say that we need more housetops. I don't know what for, because I went and checked. City of Haslet is in the lowest 13% percentile in the state of Texas on city taxes. You can't get much cheaper than what we are in that manner. Just as the developer said, this is where we live our lives. That's right. We live here. What we want is half-acre lots, one home per half-acre lot, just as our plan states and that we accepted. Thank you very much. Again, honor your constituents, honor your citizens, listen to them. I return the remainder of my time.
All right, Mr. Halsey, thank you so much. Next, we have a request from Hector Najira. I apologize, sir, if I mispronounced your name. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm also here to advocate for the half-acre lots. I moved to Haslet for the same reason, because of that city ordinance, and I just want to know where things turned around and when it changed to much smaller lots. A half-acre lot, I believe, is 21,780 square feet, and the proposal is showing 6,000 square feet lots, 8,750 square foot lots, 11,200 and 200 square feet lots, and 28,000 square foot lots. So only about a small portion is a half acre lot. So when did this change? And is it going to go back to half acre lots? Because this is why I moved to Haslet. And I'd like to hear from the mayor and from the city council.
You wanted to hear from the mayor. Let me take a second and give you a little background on the comprehensive plan. It's been mentioned several times. In the 2015-16 timeframe, it was decided by council and by the city that we needed a plan on how to develop the open property that we had left in the city. So we got a consulting firm. We paid money for their help. And the first thing we did was appoint a steering committee made up of Haslet citizens. Every subdivision, all boards and commissions within the city had representation on that steering committee. At the end of several public hearings, many meetings that the steering committee held, they made recommendations to planning zoning, and that was finally approved by council in June of 2016. And in that, as Wes mentioned in his presentation at the very beginning, what was in the comp plan, what is in the comp plan is the council has, the P&Z and council have the ability to alter the half acre to the point where we get more green space. In my estimation, when you look at a subdivision where you walk in and you see nothing, or drive in and you see nothing but homes, there is no green space, there is no buffer from the road to the subdivision, from your subdivision to another subdivision. In this particular presentation, there is a huge buffer to the west of that subdivision before we ever get to Haslet Park. So there's a buffer there. You're not having these people you know.
So you're hiding the houses.
Yes, sir. So that's a little background on the comprehensive plan and how it came about. It wasn't something that 3 or 4 of us dreamed up on our own. Like I said, the steering committee was Haslet citizens, and they made recommendations to P&Z and council, and that's how we came up with this. The green space seemed to override the idea of having nothing but half-acre lots, and that's what's allowed us to, not allowed us, what's what gave us the opportunity to share this with developers, and we have, you know, for example, Caraway doesn't have any half-acre lots in it, yet we're building $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 homes in there. There isn't
Yeah,
a
represented that they
with all
would.
due respect, yes, exactly. With all due respect, this gentleman from Southlake that doesn't even live in Haslet is saying that these half-acre lots are the same thing as 2 houses per half acre, which is not true. That's a big misrepresentation. So you're putting more houses in all of these communities, which is making it more crowded, more traffic, all the things that I moved away in the city that I was in before to move to Haslet. So I think it's being misrepresented. Okay, the value of the houses has nothing to do with how many houses you have per lot. So I think everyone should just look at that and don't misrepresent it. Okay, if the people vote for it, yes, but don't say that you're going to have the same amount of houses in a quarter-acre lot than you would in a half-acre lot. I think you're just misleading the people.
Sir, if you would be so kind as to state your address for me. I did not get that for the record, Mr. Najira.
Yeah, 402 Summer Drive. I'm in the Meadow.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Mr.
So
Jarrett,
I think people should just look at this for what it is. Why you're planning more houses here, I don't know. Maybe the developer is pushing it more, which he doesn't even live in our community, or the builders, but it's just not right. I mean, I didn't move here for this. And I think all of you are misrepresenting this. Call it out for what it is.
thank you, sir. Diana, did you have someone else from the chat?
Yes, sir. At this time, we have Miss Stephanie Grace.
Ms. Grace, you have the floor.
Hi, I would like to speak as well. I also feel very similar to the others who have spoken publicly. I think this development is becoming misleading in its wording by calling it a 2-unit per acre density when 6,000 square foot lots, only up to 18,000 square foot lots are being proposed. We moved to Haslet in 2013 to get away from the city feel. We feel like our half-acre neighborhood homes, we have plenty of green space. We have sidewalks. That's what makes us happy. When we want open spaces, we don't want to go to someone's neighborhood. So I feel like that should be considered. I do feel like the residents of Haslet should be the ones that are deciding what is good for the city, not someone that lives in Southlake. And Southlake is a whole nother entity in itself. So I don't think that's a fair statement as well, because the wording keeps coming back. We've listened to all the meetings when this initially got brought up on the P&Z committee. It's not 1/2 acre lots that we moved here for, that everyone around us in our neighborhood moved to Haslet for. And I don't think it's fair that they keep, I'm happy that the multi-family part was taken out, but ultimately the size of the lot is why we moved to Haslet. And we were disappointed in the previous neighborhoods when that got brought up. It always gets brought up to bring in smaller lots for the green space. I get that we want green space, but we have the park, and everyone I don't feel like people that want green space are going to stay in their neighborhood. They're going to travel. Yes, I know there's a pandemic right now, but they're going to go elsewhere. I also feel like just because we had a steering committee in 2015 that gave the city council right to waive that rule is a fair thing to the majority of our community that wants to maintain half-acre lots. I ask that you guys really consider what the residents of Haslet want. We want 1/2 acre lot minimum. We want to maintain that. That's what we moved here. I feel it a little bit offensive that someone from South Lake or a planning and developer for a neighborhood like this would tell us that our neighborhoods that have half-acre lots only are not sustainable, because now he's saying his new development is a sustainable development. I don't really think that's a fair statement. I feel like our neighborhood is perfectly sustainable the way it is. And like I said, I agree with about everyone that has spoken. We
Ma'am,
want
your
the
time is
half-acre
up.
minimum honored.
I'm sorry, excuse me, your time is up. Thank you so much for your comments. And now we have Miss Smitherman would like to speak.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Smitherman. I am at 312 Odessa Drive. I am directly behind Lisa McLeod and down the street from Tanya Morrow. I think that our subdivision would be impacted greatly and more than anyone else. As Lisa said, the water system and the drainage system in our Haslet Park neighborhood is not good, has never been good. It's never been addressed. I don't know, I didn't hear anything mentioned in the presentation of how this would be, how this new addition would affect that, either positively or negatively. We have considered selling and moving out of Haslet just because of Haslet Parkway and how close it's coming to our home. Now that we're talking about putting more houses in, it's making me think that we want to move even more. We've got the 2 additions that this developer has already started. We have Sendera Ranch, which is completely congested. Our community has not created infrastructure and then created developments. We have created developments and now we're trying to catch up. Again, as Lisa mentioned, Bonds Ranch is desperately needed. We have so much congestion. I understand that the new thoroughfare with Haslet Parkway will take some of the congestion out. But if you add houses on top of that, you're adding more congestion that you just fixed. Crime, with those houses being so close to our addition, I feel like that would bleed over into our addition. I really don't think we need another addition in addition to the 2 that we've already created. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Now we will recognize Mike Maltese.
Thank you for letting me speak. I just purchased a house in Caraway, and you know, I'm looking at the Google Earth and I see the land over there, and I just got back. I live in California, and I just purchased a house over there, and I hear these people, and I really sympathize with them. Because what you don't want is like Los Angeles to San Diego, which is a metroplex. But anyway, I'm even over there. For my family's over there. My son-in-law is a Marine in the Marine Corps, and he moved there. So I hear them, and I think we should listen to them. I enjoy that. The houses are expensive. I mean, they're as expensive as what I pay for over here, but. We really need to think about this. You guys got a beautiful place over there that I like, and I would really hate it to go to crap before I even move there. So think about what you're doing. Think about what the people are saying, and pray on it maybe, and maybe that'll help. But let's see how Caraway looks first before they get that done, because it's not. There's still so many vacant lots over there. It's unbelievable. And if you're saying now that it's been since 2016. And it's still, this is 21, it's still not even full. I would wait to see how they pan out. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And now we have Miss Sandra Radford.
Good evening, everybody. Live at 637 Blue Mound Road E, adjacent to the property on the west side, requesting the Gaswell Road not run along our property line. There's a spine road going through the development that's paved, thoroughfare for traffic, and that would eliminate the dust that would be created by the current proposed Gaswell Road. So residents moving into this development will be aware that this is a thoroughfare, giving them the option to decide if they want to build along that road or not. When we moved here, we didn't have to contend with the Gaswell Road, and I'm requesting that the proposed plans show that the spine road be a viable alternative. Right now, we're in the process of having our acreage restored back to its original prairie land state. Saturday, we're meeting with NPAT to start the process, and then Plateau Land and Wildlife out of San Antonio is going to take us to the finish line. So far, we've successfully worked at attracting different wildlife to our pond that sits in the corner of this development. We've made accommodations around it, and so far we've attracted kingfishers, blue heron, wood ducks, owls, Canadian geese, bluebirds, and we would really love this development to complement this instead of contract with it. And with the 3+ developments in this part of Haslet already, I'm trying to figure out how much has been given back or left for the residents that have called this area home for so long, not including things to fix the issues that were brought on by the development or the higher property values that we all know that doesn't come into play unless we're willing to sell. And from what I'm hearing, so far, most of the people, if not all of them in this area, would really still like to call Haslet home. But I want to know what you're doing to help us continue to enjoy some of the quality of life that we all have here. I just feel like there's got to be a way where the development can be completed in harmony with what's already here instead of in contrast with what they're doing. I know everybody knows that this land's going to be developed at some point. And what everyone is asking for is to make some accommodations so the development doesn't intrude so much on the current residents that have been here for a while. We used to be able to sit on our front patio and look across the street early morning, watch the day kind of start, have the blue stem with the sunlight and the bright yellow flowers and everything across the street. Then the development came. We were sad to see it go. So we still had our little piece in the backyard. Now that's being threatened with this 4th proposed development. So I'm just trying to figure out how much is enough. How much are we going to go until something is left for the residents that have been here for so long? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, Mayor Golden, I have two items to read into the record as requested by these residents. First, I have from Ron and Sandra Tharp at 308 Berry Drive. We are unable to attend tonight's council meeting and ask that this message be read into the record. My wife Sandra and I have lived in Haslet Park for 27 years. We chose to live here because of the large lots and country feel of the area. Haslet has grown quite a bit in this time period, but the large lots have been maintained during the population growth. We would prefer that development approach be continued. Also, regardless of lot size, is the consideration of the floodplain drainage area between Haslet Park and the proposed Brumbraw development. Over the years, during heavy rain periods, we have observed just how much water moves through this area, and it is more than you would think by casual observation. Any additional housing and street development will only add to water runoff. Consideration of extending any of the 3 streets of Haslet Park across this floodplain area into the Brumbraw area would not only be overly expensive, but a flooding endangerment to the east end of Haslet Park. Please vote to maintain the half-acre lots and see that the floodplain is properly considered in the development. Regards, Ron and Sandra Tharp. And then the second reading into the record this evening is from Levi Day, who is also a resident, who says, I am writing to share my thoughts and concerns on the rezoning request for the planned development on Blue Mountain Road. I would like it to be on record that my household objects to the development of a high-density subdivision. Haslet has a city ordinance requiring half-acre lot minimum, and this would be breaking that ordinance as well as breaking the trust that you have with the longtime residents of the city that moved here for that very reason. Infrastructure-wise, the city is not equipped to handle the traffic we currently have flowing through it. This addition would only exacerbate the problem immensely. Currently, there are times in the day that it takes 15 to 20 minutes to simply get across the heart of the city due to the traffic. Also, this construction could cause flooding issues in the neighborhood surrounding it, creating an even larger mess for those affected residents. Just because they called it a planned development does not make it okay to break the ordinance that has been set in place for a reason. The city of Haslet has a vision statement that reads, Vision Statement, Haslet, home of unique residential and commercial opportunities, fostering wellness, safety, and civic engagement. Please fight to keep us unique and consider the concerns of the citizens that call Haslet home. Do not let this planned development take place and change what has identified us for so long. Thank you for hearing my concerns. Sincerely, Levi Day. And then lastly, Mayor Golden, I have a list of residents that voted, that were voicing their opposition to approval of the requested rezone, who emailed me in advance of this meeting. I have their addresses on file, but I will read their names out loud. Christina Castillo, Erica Skinner, Jacob Placence, Michael Allen, Lisa Allen, Karen Bishop, Denise Webb, David Webb, Dwight Lotta, Camden Miller, Jarek Schraub, Travis Kate, Patty Hodge, Steve Thomason, Marsha Rollison, Elizabeth Arnett, Peter Arnett, Patricia Parker, Jack Parker, Amy Pitts, Andy Pitts, Chastity Torty, Lisa Lee, Mike Terry, and Aaron Hine. I also have a couple of non-residents who live in the surrounding community that voiced their opposition, named Wayne and Naomi Lambden, and a couple others in opposition, but did not send me their address. For the record, Todd and Marcella Klein and Philip Ramirez. I have no one else listed on chat to speak, Mayor, and so I think with one more call to speak, you could close this public hearing. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak for or against this development, this PD, excuse me?
Mayor Golden, I would like to speak.
Would you identify yourself and give your address, and you have the floor?
Gene Doss, 1482 Silver Sage Drive, Haslet.
Go ahead, sir.
I would like to address the things that I don't live on the big lots. I live in Caraway. I was like the 5th house that was built here. So, but I have a question about Mr. Caragway and his claims about Terramana and his beautiful ponds. First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate the service of you people at the mayor and the city council, but you should come look at these ponds. Come look at what they've done. Today, I'm 70 years old. I had to clean up the greenbelt today. So, you know, this house is my investment. And now they're going to put some other smaller residential areas in here on top of this. I paid $2,500 for the PID. They claim they're doing roads. No, I'm paying for that. They're not paying for that. I don't call this sweet water. I call it bitter water. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak for or against?
I would just like to make one last statement. I don't
Please
think
identify
anyone.
yourself.
Yeah, Hector Nahida, 402 Summer Drive in the Meadow, in Haslet, Texas. I spoke earlier. Just would like to say that I don't think anyone has spoke for this new development except for the builder or the developer, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
And council, you're on.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. We're on to discussion, consideration, and action.
Bob? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there?
I am here.
All right, this is T.Y. and Teresa Caraway over on Maxwell Road along with the Laws, whose property butts up to the west side of the new development. We fought y'all and the P&Z for years with the Vines development. They've just recently reopened Blue Mound Road, and sure, they cemented it, but it's not any wider. It's not going to handle any more traffic. I don't see that getting any better if they try to put in a new development with all those houses. They stripped the property at the Vines and the Caraways of any natural beauty. And what their green spaces are artificial. It's not what we live out here the country for.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay, at this time, I'll close the public hearing. On to discussion, consideration, and action. Council?
This is Councilmember Morrow. One of the items I keep hearing come up over and over is the floodplain concerns. So is there engineer or developer or staff or someone that can tell me what are the possible solutions for what might happen with the flood and the drainage issues with Haslet Park and surrounding areas?
I certainly can comment on that as Travis, city engineer. So with any development, there are several studies that have to be submitted. First, there has to be a study of how much extra water would be placed into the creeks and streams by changing the land use. That's the first study. The second study is you actually study the creeks and themselves to see what improvements are needed. Basically, everything is governed by Texas Water Code. Texas Water Code says you cannot damage your neighbor downstream by your stormwater flows. So whatever improvements need to be made, whether it be channel widening or detention ponds, anything that would reduce the velocity of the water so that it wouldn't erode, all that has to be taken into consideration when you're looking at your downstream neighbors. So far, they have submitted their hydrology study. I'm expecting hydrology meaning rain. I'm expecting a study showing me what the effects on the creek are. As Mr. Pedigo said earlier, they're looking at two different options of how that water actually goes underneath the bridge, whether it kind of goes straight or whether it kind of makes a turn. They have retained the same engineer that did the engineering on Haslet Parkway. So that's a good, consistent flow of data there. But in addition, the city took on remapping that floodplain that is in Haslet Park. That's actually approved now. So those flood maps will be updated. So taking all into account, yes, we do take it seriously, the flooding concerns.
Thank you.
Tanya, this is the mayor. I would add that there has been and there will be no consideration. There's been no discussion, and there will be none on any extension of roads east of where your roads dead end in Haslet Park. There's a big buffer area there proposed. There was never and will not be any discussion about through streets through Haslet Park from this development or anything further to the east. Council, anyone else?
Yeah, Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem. I just like to point out that what's before us is for a zoning change. You know, what if approved, what would come next is satisfying the other requirements and working out the details of such things as traffic, water flow, all those kind of details that go into a normal development would be part of the PD that goes with this development. And it's been mentioned before, but I want to make sure people understand. If you look at the Haslet Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted by the city after, as you mentioned, numerous public meetings, on page 21, this can be found on the website. Just search for a comprehensive plan. This is a medium density residential area. And the net density option allows for half-acre lots, but the gross density open space subdivision option, which is what this is, or this proposal is, could allow for flexibility in lot size if certain criteria are met, such as more open space or parks. Now, and that's exactly what Mr. Pedigo is proposing. It was mentioned that this is more homes. No, it's still that if you develop this, the whole property, somehow brought it out of the floodplain and just put half-acre lots, you'd end up with the same number. And is what he's proposing. Actually, he's maybe even a little less than that total number. But that's how, that's the flexibility that's now built into the future land use plan under the comprehensive plan. Also, it was mentioned in many of the emails I got from residents, and I read every one of them, and I tried to tell everyone I was appreciative of their comments. There seemed to be a general lack of understanding of our strategic plan, and that people said, well, you know, we only got two sheriff's deputies right now. You know, this is going to require more about infrastructure and facilities and so on. And I'd like to point out that we spent over a year they ended up adopting the Haslet strategic long-term plan last September September 21st meeting last year that is built on 5 pillars. One is public safety, 1 infrastructure, 1 facilities, 1 community involvement, and the 5th one, quality of life. And under each of those 5 pillars, there are goals, short-term, medium, and long-term plans on how to support the council's vision, which was read by someone previously. So that's also available on the website, and that's something that will be updated frequently as we move forward and our plans change on how to support those 5 pillars. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that's kind of the way we arrived at this situation. That's the flexibility we gave, that was given to the council at that time. Not all of us, all the present council members were council members then, some are, but that was what was given to the developers. Rather than saying, no, you can't, you only can build half-acre lots, rather than saying no, we said, well, this is what, if you don't want to do that, then this is what it will take. And that's more open space, but same number of lots. So that's my comment.
This is Councilmember Morrow again. I'm really glad that Councilmember Rob brought up the strategic plan, because I do think that those pillars are extremely important. We talked about as a council what the top three were to us, and we thought number one was public safety. How can we provide for our citizens so they feel safe? The second one, which I feel is right now the most important behind that, is infrastructure, which is why my concern is the density and the amount of homes that I struggle with our current infrastructure supporting the developments we currently have. I am so excited that we're going to get Haslet Parkway. So excited, even though it's close to my home. I think it's much needed, and it's going to be beautiful and wonderful. But I feel until Haslet Parkway is completed, until John Day Road extension is completed, until the widening of 156 is completed, it's hard for me to be for a medium density 588, or as Mr. Pettigo said, it might only be 500 single family lots, adding to the traffic concerns and the congestion and the overcrowding. So I do think that we did talk about at our strategic planning how important it was for Haslet to be more diverse and to be more inclusive. And I was on P&Z that voted for the Caraway development because I thought the location was wonderful. I thought that Mr. Pettigo and his group does a great job. I will go check out the ponds, though, as was mentioned earlier, to see what that's about. But I've been pleased with them as a partner. So I'm not saying that I'm against only, not having or only half-acre lots. But I also thought that part of our being inclusive was affordability. So with these starting at 400,000 and going up to 800,000, some of the other council members' concerns was people that want to stay in Haslet, maybe that are single income or they've had someone pass away. So I don't see how that really fits into their plan of being more affordable for people that want to live in Haslet. I've lived in Haslet for over 35 years, and I've seen it grow, and growth is going to happen. And I think I'm all for growth as long as it's controlled, and this is something we can control. And so the density is a concern for me with our infrastructure.
This is Councilmember Hilborn, and I just wanted to second something that Councilmember Morrow said, which was about whether or not this is going to provide affordability for folks. But part of also what's in our comprehensive zoning ordinance right now is a minimum house sizes that precludes any ability to have less expensive houses. And in fact, many people in this city that have spoken out at various issues have tried to remind us that they don't want affordability in the city. So although I could see myself as someday wanting to downsize, there's no place to do that, and there won't be with the plans that we have. However, this proposal that we're looking at tonight does meet our zoning ordinance goals, and it meets our vision statement. It does offer some unique, different residential areas. It offers a variety of lot sizes for some folks that don't have any interest in keeping a half acre or an acre or larger property. It allows them to think that Haslet is where they want to live, and they can make Haslet their home. I believe it meets furthers our long-term goals for infrastructure by providing these improvements that are required of the developer to provide. But any developer would be required to do them. But it does do that in this plan. And also, I think, with its aesthetic value, as well as its the addition of the parks that will be city parks and the trails that will be city trails that aren't going to be specifically for this development, it continues Haslet's reputation as a welcoming and inclusive community. And although we don't offer small houses, we do offer some different variety of different housing communities with this product. Thank you.
Disagree.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Kim Dawn, and I would like to speak, if I could.
Kim, the public hearing's closed, but I'll give you 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very nice. Well, I just want to say that we pay a PID, and we pay $2,500 for our PID. And I feel like that's for the development for roads and
streets. And developers not paying that.
And the developers are not paying for that. We also pay for a pretty expensive HOA, and we live in the Caraway addition. And the drainage is, we hear a lot of complaints about the drainage in our area as far as homeowners are concerned. So I'm kind of curious as far as the area is concerned about drainage.
Cool. And the parks, I'm Gene Doss, I'm her husband. The parks and all that stuff, isn't that kind of a...
Mayor, this is Rob Alabon. Mr. Dawes already spoke during public comment.
Thank you. Thank you for cutting me off.
This is City Secretary Buchanan. Ms. Dawes, please specifically state your opposition or your question so that your time is your own. Thank you very much.
Ms. Dawes, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I'm sorry. No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Travis, would you talk about the obligation on the part of a developer to make sure that there's no damage resulting from drainage from a development?
Sure, that's actually covered under Texas state law, Texas Water Code. You cannot damage your downstream neighbor. So you basically, whatever flows today, if a big storm comes through, whatever flows on that property now has to, their drainage cannot exceed that flow in any way that damages the property. So that includes increased flows, that includes erosion flows, that includes anything that would be considered a damaging event. So that's covered under Texas Water Code, and that's what we enforce through the development standards. As mentioned before, there's the detention ponds, or looking at the timing of flows, or potentially putting erosion control measures in to try to keep drainage from causing any of those problems.
Then I'm kind of curious why so many neighbors on our Caraway page mention about drainage problems and that they're having problems dealing with getting the water fixed, the water drainage fixed.
Okay, this is the mayor. I opened the door, but if we're not going to identify ourselves, and if you've already spoken, you've had your chance. I'm sorry, this is not an open forum for complaints about your subdivision. There are appropriate channels both within the subdivision as far as going to the developer, and also coming to the city if you have issues, and we're more than happy to address those. But I don't want to take the rest of our time this evening doing that. And I don't mean to be rude, but I hope you understand. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm Kim Doss, and
In Caraway.
in Caraway, and I didn't mean to cause any problems. Thank you.
No, ma'am, you're not causing a problem. Any thoughts, Jessica? I'd like to get a round here.
I touching on some points that some other council members have brought up. I agree that I find the diversity in the housing adds to the quality of life, which is one of our pillars that we've determined in the strategic plan. But it doesn't do so in such a way that we still have that open space. And one point I wanted to add specifically about this item is that because such it is a big topic, that it might be worth considering this item when all council members are present. That may just be my opinion, but just thought I would throw that out there.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't want to try to nitpick everything that was said or to try to respond because I didn't write everything down. I know there was a comment early on about roads, and I would like to recap just briefly. Bonds Ranch is no longer a City of Haslet road. We at one point had the north half of Bonds Ranch. Bonds Ranch is City of Fort Worth today, and we have no control over that. And in the way of explanation, when 95% plus of that traffic is non-Haslet traffic, I didn't think it was going to be incumbent upon us to take on building half of that eventually at some point in the future, our half to 4 lanes. So council and I essentially made a deal with the City of Fort Worth, and we got a couple of roads internal, and they took on the entire Bonds Ranch Road. I don't remember the exact time frame. I would guess that was probably about 2 years ago. So Bonds Ranch is out of our hands, but it was out of our hands by choice because we didn't want to spend the money. We didn't think you folks wanted to spend the money to improve a road where we're not using it that much. That's a segue over to Haslet Parkway. I know there are folks that are concerned about Haslet Parkway. If you remember back to when 170 was going to be extended from 35 there at Cabela's all the way across Eagle Mountain Lake, we decided we didn't want a 500-foot right-of-way road coming through our city with a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, possibly tolled and or only one entrance and exit off of that road in the entire span that it was in the City of Haslet. So that was shot down. So in an attempt to be a team player and try to help the regional transportation issues, we came up with the Haslet Parkway, which, as was previously mentioned, a 4-lane concrete divided, kind of like Tarrant Parkway Road, 45 mile an hour speed limit as opposed to the 65 and all the through traffic. I am of the understanding that when that road is complete and it starts hopefully by the middle of February, no later than the end of February, 2.5 year maximum time to get that complete. When we see that 4-lane road complete, we're going to see an easing of the traffic that we now have on Bonds Ranch, Blue Mound, and Westport, because we're going to have a much nicer road that's going to get those Fort Worth people through the City of Haslet, off 35 to the west, and as they're coming east through the city. In addition to that, the north-south, I think, has been mentioned. At some point in the future, 156 is going to be widened. That's entirely a TxDOT project, but does have our input. So the major north-south and east-west roads have improvement in the near future within the next 3 to 5 years, and just want to share that. We don't have the ability in Haslet to essentially maintain what we have right now. For example, the only way we as a city are paying for the improvements to Haslet Park and doing those all concrete roads is with the sales tax money generated from the building materials that are being delivered to Caraway, to North Glen, and to Laterra. It's those new homes that are paying for the upkeep of the roads in Haslet Park because we didn't have the wherewithal to maintain our own. So we were trying to bring the development in so that we could get a handle on the infrastructure. That's not meant to be an excuse, but that is an explanation as to why that's happening and how that's happening today. Council, anybody else have a comment?
Well, yes, that's a great segue though. So with the developments coming in and the infrastructure being worked on, I know y'all are aware of these numbers, but I just want to say them again. Caraway will have 312 lots. Watercrest will have 279. North Glen will have 293, and Laterra, which is going to be a lot of people, 504 lots. That's over almost 1,400 lots. So that with the addition of the 588, and that's not even including Regal Ridge, the Vines, Boa Grande, it's almost 2,000 single-family homes coming in with these developments. So I really hope that you're correct in the infrastructure that we have in place, and that is going to be able to support the traffic that this is going to cause.
Mayor Golden, this is Diana Buchanan. Just for clarification, could Mr. Pedigo please clarify how many lots his proposal actually has as of this evening? Thank you.
Mr. Pedigo, you've got the floor to talk about that. And if there's anything that was mentioned in any of the comments that you'd care to address, please feel free. You've got the floor, sir.
I will definitely answer that, Diana. I'll tell you, Councilman Morrow, the one thing that I heard tonight that I wasn't aware of was an issue with our ponds at Caraway. And so I'll be making a phone call to the HOA management company in the morning, and I'll be happy to meet anybody out there and try to find out what the issue is. But that's not something that we want to hear or will tolerate in our communities. So I second that. I'll be there with you if you need to meet, but that's not something we want to hear internal to our community. So, and then as far as the drainage concerns, we have not heard any issues with drainage issues at the Caraway development. I don't know, Travis, if you've heard of anything. I don't know if these are issues that are maybe, builder issues with, lots that are draining in a backyard or something like that. I don't know, because I have not heard, and I usually hear immediately if there's some kind of an issue with drainage. The one thing I will remind everybody, and we see this a lot as communities are becoming to develop into new standards and new way of engineering. When some of the older developments were developed, the development standards weren't as sophisticated, and the infrastructure needs as far as determining what the impact of communities coming into development might occur in a community, what it's going to have, what impacts it's going to have on Haslet may not have been around a long time ago when some of those developments were happening. The criteria needed to come in to just do a zoning case, I guarantee you didn't have the stringent criteria that you guys have today and that y'all put in place. So us doing drainage studies, us doing traffic impact analysis to show where the trouble spots are in the infrastructure, and then putting a plan in place to build infrastructure that minimizes that impact. That's what we do. And so you named a lot of developments that are taking place around town. I can tell you 3 of them, and somebody mentioned that we built some turn lanes or we did whatever. We've spent over $6 million in roadways in Haslet over the last 3 to 4 years. That's not just to keep up with what our impact is, but that's to patch some of the issues that have happened in the past before we were here. Because those traffic impact analysis, when we do those, they identify areas that's a problem today and a problem in the future. And so we went to work on a plan and put a plan in place to build those roads. This particular development is going to take $5 million, over $5 million for just the arterial roadways. That doesn't count the internal streets or anything else. That's just the arterial roadways. So, our plans are thought out and are matched up against criteria to go along with what these impacts are. I don't think that was there a long time ago. I think that's why some of the development has occurred over time, and adjacent to it, nothing was done on major roadways. I just think that, and so we're in a new mode of doing that. It's ironic that I heard a comment from Maxwell Creek Development about the other side of Blue Mountain Road. That's a county subdivision, and whenever that county allowed them to build that subdivision, they didn't have them put the perimeter road in. So we put the road in on the south side. The county is responsible for putting the other one in. So, you know, that it's that type of development that has occurred over time. It hasn't allowed the proper infrastructure to get built. Your criteria now and the stringent criteria that we go through identifies those issues, and we go to work and we put those dollars to use to go build and help the things that have happened in the past, as well as looking forward in the future. That's what our TIA does. That's what is required of us when we come before you. So I don't like being held to the old standards of why everything in Haslet isn't working today. All I'm saying is I'm spending a lot of dollars to make sure that going forward, we've taken care of some of the issues today, but also we're taking care of what's going to happen with the impact of our development. With the drainage, you know, we have looked at it, and I think I understand the issue that Haslet Park has had over the years, because this land has gone undeveloped, and the land upstream of it in Haslet Park did develop. And all that drainage coming down into this land in its natural state without it being improved to allow the drainage to flow properly through it, that's what's causing the problem. So when we go to work and we put our plan in place, we study all of that and determine what is the right design and the channel that we put in to make sure that drainage gets out of Haslet Park and doesn't get clogged up on this natural property of where it is. So we have to do improvements with dirt work and build the proper drainage facilities to allow that drainage to get out of Haslet Park. It really bypasses our development and goes around and under the bridge. We've already looked at it. We know what it needs to happen. It'll be up to Travis when we come in for our preliminary plat to make sure we adhere to the state requirements as well as the city of Haslet requirements, that we're not going to create any damage to our neighbors. And we're actually, I think we're going to make it better. So that's, but on the lot count issue that was mentioned, Diana, the plan that was presented to you, we counted up the lots. It's about 494 lots on that plan. It does have some provisions to allow some of the larger lots to go a little bit higher if we can find ways to maneuver our plan. I don't really see us doing that. I would say a lot cap at about 500 lots is what we would agree to in this development, if that would make everybody feel better and make sure that the density is down to a 1.7 or density, which would be consistent with a half-acre lot development that was done over the entire development of this property. And that's not a misrepresentation, as was mentioned before. That's just the density that if you take land, if I took 294 acres and I laid it out in the most efficient way possible and laid out that's how many lots you could get on that property. We've done half-acre lot developments. We don't think everybody needs to live in this neighborhood. There are still other developments in Haslet that offer half-acre. We've developed some. North Glen has developed some. So there's going to be continued diversity where people that want those lots can buy those lots and build houses on those lots. If they want something different, we're just offering something a little different. It's not it's just really about the lifestyle and what they want from their homes and their community. With that being said, I hope that answered all those questions that came up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask Mr. Pedigo a question on, I know there was, someone spoke tonight about they said that they are, I believe they're in Maxwell Estates, right there on Blue Mound, about the gas line, the road for the gas wells. And they had asked about changing it so that it uses the road through the neighborhood. And then it looks like based on the plan, it would cut through between what I think is like Village 2 and Village 3, I believe. Can you offer anything on that?
Yeah, I can definitely discuss that. I mean, so the gas well that's in question is actually in the Maxwell Creek development. It's not on our property. Currently, the gas well road comes from a gas well access that would be kind of along the alignment of where intermodal is and goes directly east-west across our property and into the Maxwell Creek property. So, you know, the question came about and we looked at it, and what we've found in the past when we're talking about development in Haslet is that the city of Haslet would prefer those gas well trucks not to utilize their city roads. They would rather that come off of major arterials. And so, you know, we were offering the access along that boundary, again, to push it to the edge of the city limit. Well, that's the current city limit line. And to serve a gas well that's in the county, that you didn't utilize roads that are City of Haslet roads for that, other than the arterial Blue Mountain Road. Now, I am open to a discussion with staff and everyone if we want to try to bring an access through that area off of the Spine Road, but it's not really a zoning issue at this point. And that's why I haven't been willing to address it, because it really takes more of a decision from staff or council as to what the policy is for the gas wells that are serving out a gas well that's in the county right now. Do you want that coming off of one of your roads and maintaining that road for a gas well to be served in the county? That's a question for staff and everybody to determine. And it's not really a zoning issue. That's why I haven't addressed it at this point. We think we've got a plan, and I think I could do a great job of screening and helping, you know, minimize the area there along that boundary line. But, you know, that's not really a zoning issue. That's kind of just working through a plan that works for the city, for the property owner out in the county. And I mean, really the gas well, I think, should be served off of Maxwell Creek, because I mean, it's a well in Maxwell Creek, but that's not my call. So, you know, the zoning issue, irregardless of what we decide, and the property owner of this property, you know, the Brumbaugh family have talked about rerouting their gas wells anyway, because things have changed on how the gas wells, and they're talking about, you know, moving that, whether the property develops or not, to that property line to get it from cutting across the middle of their pasture where the cattle and everything. If they put it to the perimeter. So it's not really, that's not a question of whether we're going to develop the property or not. That's just, where does it make sense to put the gas well? The gas well company a long time ago put it in the most economic and easy way for them, not necessarily what's best for Haslet.
Jessica,
Does that answer your question?
I want to add my 2 cents. We've established a policy within the city as much as possible not to have gas well traffic on city streets. It just tears them up, and that's why we have gravel roads with access to the gas wells, because the gas company doesn't want to spend the money to pave them, and we don't want those folks running through our residential streets. I don't think that Brett's right. This isn't his hog in this thing. This is the city's, and we can readdress it, but my position would be to strongly discourage having gas well vehicles coming through city streets.
No, I appreciate the clarification. Thank you. And I actually do have one more question for Mr. Pedigo. Like I mentioned, I am open to the diversity in the homes. And I know that you've kind of built a reputation on what you are already offering in Haslet. But I was kind of curious if you could speak to, there is, according to this plan, there is no actual half-acre lots. And I was curious if, given the areas it surrounds, you know, you have Haslet Park with on 1 acre, some on 2 acres. You have Caraway over to the east, and with the mixed use, and then obviously to the north we're gonna have Haslet Parkway and whatever comes with that. I find it kind of interesting that I feel like this development could have possibly incorporated what we have with the small lots at the 6,000 all the way up to the half acres. I was curious if you could speak to the fact that, yeah, we're close to the half acres with, you know, the 18,000, but we're not quite there. And so I was curious if you had anything to add to that.
You know, I think what we've found, and, you know, we do market studies and we do information about the home sales in the area and what the buyers are choosing. You know, North Glen has 2 more phases of half-acre lots. We've got Regal Ridge, which has half-acre lots. And we looked at the number of lots that are coming online in the future in that range. Compare that to the market studies of what the buyer profiles and what people are looking for in these areas. And we try to find a lot mix that works. Obviously, we think that the larger lots in this community are going to be priced very competitively with those half-acre lots as far as the price of the homes that go on them. On some of the larger lots along the southern and kind of southeastern area, like I said, we're talking to the same custom builder that's building in the vines on the half-acre lots, and he's really just wanting to carry that product over. So the reason we've done this is because we're focused on where the market is and what we see coming around Haslet online. We want to just find that mix of lots that gives us the best menu for when people come in, that we're not necessarily competing heads up with other communities. We're trying to find a little bit different product mix. That's basically what it comes down to.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
So, Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem. I have a comment. Many years ago, minimum lot size in Haslet was 1 acre. Fortunately, that was changed to half acre, and we got developments like Ashmore Farms and The Meadow, all very nice developments. And in 2016, when we wrote the comprehensive plan, we put in the option for something else. Mr. Pettigo was at that meeting when it was adopted. He listened, and he's given us a development here tonight that complies with the provisions of the comprehensive plan for the alternative subdivision to half acre, no more than the same number of houses. In fact, in this case, actually less. So he's complied with what we put out there. So, you know, regardless of whether a homeowner was told by their realtor that Haslet will always, forever maintain a half acre standard, that remains to be seen. But it does read half acre unless you do this plan development. And so that's what Mr. Pettigo is proposing, and that's why we're here. So I'm ready to make a motion based on his satisfaction of those requirements, if you're ready to hear it.
Go ahead, sir.
So I move to adopt the ordinance amending the official zoning map, rezoning the property from agriculture plan development as recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission, and require the developer to amend the development standards to include the added conditions.
Is there a second?
Mayor, this is, I second. This is Councilmember Hilborn.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Warren Robb.
Aye.
Jessica Clark.
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn,
Aye.
Tanya Morrow.
Nay.
The motion passes 3-1. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Pedigo,
you
and
all for
thanks
your
to all
time.
the citizens that participated. We really appreciate your help.
Thank you.
9B, hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act on a revised preliminary plat for North Glen subdivision being 192.8 acres located within the James Rightly Survey, abstract number 1268, and Henry Roberts Survey, abstract number 1259, and generally located at the southwest corner of FM 156 and Blue Mound Road in Haslet, Tarrant County, Texas. Wes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. As stated, this is a revised preliminary plat. I do want to state I think these are fairly minor in context to everything. The subdivision ordinance requires that any time there's a change in traffic circulation on a preliminary plat, that it has to go back to the process for official revision. So the primary change here tonight is that there was a traffic configuration. Kingston Lane was reconfigured on the western side of the property, and it's now, I believe it has 3 lots that are fronting on it, where before it had no lots fronting on it. The other, I would say, change that's going on in this or in this plat is that they've revised their phase lines, whereas phase 2 used to be on the northern portion of the property abutting Blue Mound Road. They've now changed that, and it's now in the southwestern portion. And then they've moved phase 3 to where phase 2 was, and then they added a 4th phase. The other change that actually has already occurred, the previous director approved an administrative change, so I just thought I'd add it in for your benefit. But there was an administrative change which was allowed by the ordinance, but it was a change to phase 1, again, changing the way lots face to certain streets. So again, very minor in itself, but per the subdivision ordinance, we want to bring it forward tonight. The original preliminary plat was approved with 7 variances, 1 requiring no sidewalks along FM 156, 1 allowing the maximum block length to be 1,770 feet long, 3 with a non-radial lot lines to be allowed, 4 maximum streetlight spacing to be at 800 feet, 5 to be franchise utilities to be installed after the city acceptance of the subdivision, 6 for the final plat to be filed after city acceptance of the subdivision and prior to a building permit, and then 7 allowing the approval of the preliminary plat to expire 2 years after the date after city council action. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the revised North Glen preliminary plat. Again, let me correct the vote tally there. Me becoming familiar with how we record votes here. It was approved by a 5-0 vote with the alternate voting approval as well. I can answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Wes? At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this revised preliminary plat?
Mayor, good evening. This is Matt Alexander with the Cambridge Companies. I'm the representative of the developer, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I thought Wes did a nice job of explaining what it is that we're wanting to do, but I just wanted you guys to know that it's important to us and that we're here.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? And if you'll stand by in case we do have questions once we get into discussion, I'd appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against this revised preliminary plat? Hearing none, I'll close the public. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to let you know I don't have anyone else on the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing and on to discussion, consideration, and action. Questions, comments from council? This sounded to me like, pretty much just a housekeeping maneuver. If no one has any questions, I would consider a motion
Mayor, this is Councilmember Hilborn. I move to approve the revised North Glen preliminary plat with variances as stated.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Councilmember Morrow.
Morrow seconds. Any further discussion? Still roll call vote. Warren Robb,
Aye.
Jessica Clark,
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn,
Aye.
Tanya Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. 9C, hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act on a request for a final plat of North Glen Phase 2 being 68 residential lots and 2 common lots on 44.083 acres in the Henry Robertson Survey Abstract Number 1259 within the city of Haslet, Tarrant County, Texas. The property is generally located west of FM 156 and North Glen Phase 1A and south of Blue Mound Road. Wes, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, council members, very simply put, this is the phase 2 of the preliminary plat that you just approved, and Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 with the alternate voting in favor as well.
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this final plat for North Glen Phase 2?
Hello, my name's Jaime Escobedo. I live at 241 Wimberley Drive in North Glen. It was mentioned that there's a phase 4. We just recently moved in 4 months ago, which we understood there was only going to be 3 phases. Can you elaborate a little more on phase 4 and where that is?
Wes, you are the representative from the developer. Can y'all handle that?
Yeah, I think so. Or Matt, if you prefer to handle it, but simply put, it's on the northern end of the property. And what I will do real quick is pull up. I have to go back to the preliminary plat to see exactly how many lots are in that phase. 1 second. Sorry about that. Went to the other one. I forgot how many lots are in phase 4, Matt, if you remember off the top of your head.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but essentially we have just taken the same number. We haven't added any lots. We've just taken the same number of lots and divided them into smaller slices, if you will. And
so you
that's
basically
really
just kind of,
market.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So basically it's not an addition. It's just you're shrinking the other phases down somewhat.
That's correct. So we originally had, like, for instance, phase 1 was originally planned for, I think it was around 105 lots, and I think we developed 85. So it's really just, we don't want to just put a sea of lots on the ground. So we've just taken the overall gross number of lots and divided it into 4 phases as opposed to 3.
Okay. So the numbers are basically the same as what we were told when we first kind of moved out here.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Actually, if I can, real quick, just for a point of record, the revised preliminary plat actually reduces the overall number of lots. So you're 1 less than what was originally approved in 2016.
And those are all half acre, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll close the public hearing then, and on to discussion, consideration, and action. Council, any questions or comments? If not, if you're comfortable, I would entertain a motion.
This is Councilmember Clark. I move to approve the final plat for North Glen Phase 2.
Is there a second?
This is Hilborn. I second.
Hilborn seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote. Warren Robb,
Aye.
Jessica Clark,
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn,
Aye.
Tanya Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. 9D, hold a public hearing, discuss, consider, and act on a request for approval of a site plan package for a minor automobile repair facility use located on a 1.028 acres in the Laterra Village subdivision, generally located southwest of Avondale Haslet Road and FM 156 intersection. Wes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This is a 7,200 square foot minor auto repair facility. The property falls within the Laterra Village subdivision plan development, outlines landscaping requirements and uses and building elevations as well. The site, it's important to note the site does not have any direct frontage on either FM 156 or Avondale Haslet. Any of the garage door requirements that would have been spelled out in the PD would not be required in this scenario. The site plan complies with all of the required zoning requirements. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 with a alternate voting in favor as well. I can answer any questions that you have.
Any questions real quick for Wes? Hearing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this site plan package as presented? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on to discussion, consideration, and action. Any questions or comments from council?
I have one, Mayor, and I apologize. I couldn't get in fast enough to ask Wes a question. This question is for Wes. Wanted to ask you if you could confirm something that I had actually asked you previously, which is that even though even though their elevations that they're including in this package shows a sign on the building, we are not approving a sign this evening. So if they're going to come to you with a sign plan, and if it meets our qualifications, we don't even see it. So it only will come to us if there's a variance requested. So what we're looking at, we're not approving this sign that shows on this facade. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's typical that they will add their kind of what their signage is going to look like in a site plan package. That's part of their elevation. So that's why it's included, but it's not a part of the official approval tonight. Sign permits are approved from an administrative standpoint, and so they'll get that during their building permit process. So you're exactly right, Councilman.
Thank you so much.
Okay, anybody else with a question or comment? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion if somebody's ready.
Mayor, this is Hilborn. Oh, go ahead, Tanya.
You can go ahead.
Okay, so I move to approve the site plan request as presented.
I'll second.
Tanya seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's do a roll call vote. Warren Robb.
Aye.
Jessica Clark.
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn.
Aye.
Tanya Morrow.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. 9E, discuss, consider, and act regarding future city special events. This was requested by myself. As y'all are aware, with Jim's concurrence, essentially the emergency management team for the city consists of Chief Mays and myself. A lot of worker bees, and obviously Kurt does 95% of the work, but I do get some input. And I'd like for Kurt to talk a little bit about what his recommendation might be from a public safety standpoint for what we're looking at for the next 5 or 6 months, and then we can discuss it. Kurt, if you're still here.
Yeah. So on one of my conference calls with physicians talking about the vaccine, again, they just stated that it's going to be till at least June 1 before we can really get back to headed in the right direction. And so that's kind of what we've been basing our future plans on for how we serve the citizens. And then that kind of led into, what do we do for our special events? And so that's where the mayor and I were discussing it. And as I've stated, I don't believe that we should do any outside gathering events prior to June 1. So that would need to cancel Tanya's favorite Easter egg hunt. So, or as the mayor's going to tell you, is there another way to do this? So, so that's the one that is affected us first. And then the Memorial Day event, which would be the day before, I'm sure we could figure that out. But so those are two events that we need, the city staff needs to plan, yes or no. And then the next big one becomes the the Wild West Fest. Sorry about that. So Wild West Fest, I think if you're going to do it before June, I don't support it. And so we need to start figuring out from contract wise whether we want to just push that off this year. And as the mayor's going to maybe talk about other ways to use funds, and Travis. So we got the Wild West Fest we need to deal with. And then we're going to jump into the 4th of July. Where are we at with that? Because we're going to, again, we need to start getting contracts and setting dates. So the ones after that are Movie in the Park, National Night Out, and then the Christmas. But so that's just the thing. Parks Department needs direction from council on how you want to proceed. And I'll just stop right there, and then that's what I'm presenting.
Thank you, sir. And I'll continue this for just a couple of minutes with my thoughts, and it's just a recommendation for y'all to consider. And you know, it's I got the Moderna vaccine. It takes 4 weeks to get your second shot, and then to get the 95% efficacy. What I think I've read, and I could be confused, it takes another 2 weeks after you get the second shot. Until we have a better feel for when the vast majority of our folks, I'm talking about in Haslet, 70% of us get those shots and get the second shot 3 to 4 weeks later, and then another 2 weeks after that to get the 95% efficacy. I can't in good conscience recommend that we plan anything, and I'm not sure June 1 actually takes us far enough. I know there's other communities in the Metroplex that are doing stuff. What I would ask you to consider possibly is to go back to the park board, for example, and if we're going to recommend that they cancel the Wild West Fest, they had some money in that expenditure, in that budget. Come back with some recommendations to us on something that we could do for the city, within the city, virtually within the city. Use those funds with something that we can walk away and say, yeah, we didn't have the Wild West Fest, but we were able to do whatever. And the same thing, we might be able to do a virtual Memorial Day. Some other people have tried that. And I'd like to ask the park board for some input before council makes a decision. But based on what feedback I think I heard today from the last park board meeting, before they expend a lot of brain cells planning for future events, they want some guidance from council on whether or not we even want to have those events. So I was hoping for more of a teamwork response, but I think they're asking us to make the decision on yes or no, and then they'll come back with recommendations after the fact. So that's kind of where we are right now. And to refresh, Kurt's initial thought was to cancel everything through June 1. You know, the thing I'm most proud of at this point with the 170 or 80 that we've got for positives and whatever the number is for recoveries, it changes every day. We've still got 0 deaths, and a lot of that's just luck. And a lot of it's just us hanging in there and being very conservative as a council and saying, let's don't tempt fate here and try to do something because our kids want to go find Easter eggs. I think that's just to me, the Easter egg hunt just needs to be canceled. There's no way that you can get a mass of kids when the whistle blows and have that be a safe environment. My personal opinion, and that's it. I open it up for discussion, but that's kind of leading us into why I wanted this on the agenda, so the park board knows what our guidance is in the near future.
This is Councilmember Morrow. I 100% agree. June 1st should be our goal, but it might even extend beyond that. So are you saying we tell the Parks Board, yes, we were canceling, or we would recommend canceling everything, to June 1st? And then what are your plans to how to use that? Reallocate? Is that what you're saying? We go to them with that? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I like that.
I would say we tell them that, we made the decision, y'all made the decision, I think, in 2 or 3 different increments through 2020. I just don't think we want to tempt the issue here. My comment from the very beginning is honor the threat, and until we get shots, and until we know a little bit more about the strains that are coming out, are the shots still going to be effective? We're gonna have sports because the governor says we're gonna have sports. Unless council says no, we're not going to utilize city property for baseball and softball, and that's something else that is adjacent to this. That I would invite anybody that has a comment or a thought to share that too.
Mayor, this is Councilmember Hilborn, and I guess we got to figure that this is going to impact library summer reading program. I think they did it all virtually this year, and in 2020, and maybe we have to do that again. I'm wondering if June 1 is a little optimistic, and I think before we agree to sign any contracts that we think we might have to cancel, that we at least figure out a way, if we want to schedule anything after June 1, do it so that we're not going to have to make commitments that we might have to break. Maybe figure out how to do things in-house. I remember during our strategic planning that one of the ideas that Jessica came up with were smaller community, subdivision-based activities. And I wonder if we might think about something like that. I know we still want to be careful, but if we plan if we were able to let the Parks Board consider something like that, so that each subdivision might have something, but it'd have to be limited to to very small number of people. So again, that may not even be feasible. It just occurred to me that was an idea we talked about back in the old world. But I would be in favor of pushing it out till July 1st, and for any plans we make for the July 4th celebration, be something we manage in-house so that we don't have to let anybody down. Now, I will also add that perhaps our, the DJ that we've had in the past, who's been so fantastic, he could pull off a virtual July 4th thing. I've participated in some Zoom meetings where everyone was actually partying with the group. So, it's not impossible to say that we can do something like that and still be safe. I just worry about we don't know yet the future.
I want to jump on something you said there, and you're right. I think it was Jessica that was pushing, and I mean this in a positive way, the neighborhood get-togethers. Just remember that right now the governor has said that any outdoor gathering 10 or larger has to be approved by the mayor. We had a subdivision that wanted to do something last summer, and the planner for that, when he and I talked on the phone, said there were a number of people in his subdivision who didn't want to wear a mask, and that was in complete defiance of again, in a nice way, but it wasn't in concurrence with what the governor's guidelines were. And I said, well, I can't sign this if you're going to tell me on the application that you're not going to enforce the mask wearing. That would be my worry, that anything 10 or greater in a neighborhood, we're trusting our neighbors to do that. And yes, when we go to the store or we go to City Hall, we're wearing a mask, but in the neighborhoods, it might be a little bit different. And I'll be the first to tell you, when I'm riding my horse, I don't wear a mask. So maybe I'm being hypocritical. I don't think so. Nobody's going to get closer than 6 feet to me. But I think I need to rethink my position. If the president comes out and says day after tomorrow that he wants us to wear masks anytime we're outside for the next 100 days, in good conscience, I'm probably going to have to wear a mask, because that's the example that I need to set for our community. I'm rambling. I'm sorry, Jessica. It was your thought initially do you have a comment one way or the other about the neighborhood thing?
I guess not specifically to the neighborhood thing, other than I guess whatever like I'm not opposed to things or if they're going to be doing safe practices, but at the same time we've been going through this COVID thing for a while now, and I feel like we're hoping that we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and so whether or not we're 6 months to that or further, I'm comfortable with the extending the no events at least through June, or I think it was mentioned July, because that puts us right there for 4th of July. And I hope that answers your question.
Well, I think if we're going to extend it to the 1st, it's too late on the 2nd of July to plan the 4th. I think what we'd be doing effectively is canceling everything through the 4th of July activities. I want to read part of an email we got from a nurse, and she's talking about her daughter. 46-year-old man and his 37-year-old wife both died on our service yesterday. This is down in the Austin area, leaving behind an 11-year-old boy. The other I'd mentioned, some of you are probably aware, I'm sure Tanya is, the 52-year-old coach of the Saginaw softball team died last week of COVID. You know, yeah, it's hitting us older folks a heck of a lot more, but none of us are safe from it. Maybe I'm being overly conservative, but I would echo, canceling everything through July even. I'd rather us look back and say, well, maybe we could have planned something and done something, but we didn't lose anybody trying to do that. And I think we owe that to our folks, not to lead them down a path that's going to make them more susceptible to COVID.
Hey, Mayor.
Golden, this is Diana. I did want to say that I have been doing some reading about some other communities that have done drive-through or, like a drive-in July 4th observation of fireworks. And so if that's something that council feels strongly about, observing the 4th with fireworks, we don't necessarily have to have a huge open area. We could perhaps have a parking plan for people to park their cars and do their own tailgate party, private tailgate party or something. It's just something to think about. We are in January and hopefully things are going to be better by July. So I'm just throwing that out there. Thank you.
All right, Mayor. So to echo on to Diana's comment, she just beat me to it. So I texted Vinny from Public Health, and he just replied back, because I said we're thinking about canceling events, fireworks. He said, yes, you can probably have them because they had them last year, but trying to do the social distancing and not doing a fair, which is what Diana's alluding to, and just watching from your car would be the best option, but it's still too far out to know. So that's his best guess from Public Health. So I still think my whole point of this is we need to figure out if we want to set a date, when would that date be, find out if the fireworks people are even going to be available. And then as we look at that contract, and I'm going to let Travis speak here when I'm done because he's got some information, but let's look at picking a date. Let's find out if the vendor's available. We may have to build into the contract. Maybe we have to pay a smidget more to be able to cancel at a later or sooner date. So I think we have to pay attention to that. So that was kind of my comment on fireworks. So Travis, what did you want to say about fireworks?
So internal staff discussions, we have talked about how for instance, the Alliance Air Show went off last October. They basically painted lines on the ground and said you can park here, and they limited their event capacity. The biggest thing I think that we have come up with is that we know that, for instance, most of Haslet Park watches their fireworks from their backyard, which is fine. But the people that park on Schoolhouse Road, the people that observe from Community Park, they may not necessarily be Haslet residents. And how do we limit that capacity? How do we get to a point where we can say, okay, we can have 100 cars, for instance, park in the parking lot between all the different parking lots of the park in City Hall and still show off the fireworks, but not have people then stop on FM 156 or stop on Schoolhouse Road. The biggest issue was enforcement at that point. So we have discussed trying to get an event to go, and we've gotten to that point that it could happen. Some of the other big hurdles that we see are, one, we do need to get a contract in. It's January. A lot of the vendors are starting to fill their spots for the next year. We have been informed by one vendor that the prices will be more this year. One, supply chain has been impacted by COVID, and two, everybody's events got canceled last year. So the companies that are still in business are having an issue. You know, they do need to make their profits back up. So we've got that concern. The other thing is, where we normally hold fireworks, we did have an agreement in a verbal agreement last year for the former EPRI property. We would need to start that process now if we're going to still have it on the EPRI property. If we're going to close off the field, Nance Field, and have the fireworks there, that doesn't come into play. So these are all the questions that we're trying to come up with now, and unfortunately in January we need to answer these questions for July.
Well, just to add some information, the 4th is a Sunday, the 5th is a city holiday, so the 1st and 2nd, which are Thursday and Friday, are work days for the city. Probably be kind of tough to have Public Works work Thursday night and then come in on Friday. So we haven't asked the park board to consider what their preference would be for a date. Did they discuss that at all at their meeting last week, Travis?
They did not. They were basically told that this item of future city events would be before council, and that they would be asked in February what they wanted to do.
This is Barbara Long from the Parks Board. May I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
We actually, and you might have stepped out for a minute, but we actually did just set a very tentative date in case we could do something, plan something for 4th of July, and our preferred date was July 2nd, but that was very tentative.
And that's Friday the 2nd. Okay, thank you. And appreciate the input, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Barbara, thanks for hanging out. Mayor, this is Councilmember Hilburn. Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is just a flash in the pan idea, but what if we pushed it out further? What if we said, we're going to do an end of summer celebration, and perhaps the fireworks folks won't be as busy, as hard to connect with. They'll give us more time to negotiate with them. Maybe we'll know by mid-spring whether it's really looking good for the end of summer. And so at the end of the summer, we just have a huge let's celebrate Haslet bash, and we do all the stuff. We do a parade. We have the fire trucks. We have the DJ, and we still honor our July 4th celebration there. We mention it. We say we wish we could have gotten together then. And that way, we're kind of trying to put pressure on ourselves to predict whether the difference between June 1st and July 1st is manageable. And we just don't know. So anyway, just an idea. If the park board says no way, I'll respect that. But it's just an idea.
No, I go ahead.
I could do it for Labor Day. Trish, might be a date that's late enough that has
I was going to say, if it depends on when school starts up, that's probably the I don't know, 16th of August. So that's only a couple weeks into August. So maybe shifting to a Labor Day type thing. So does council want to cancel everything through July, say July 4th for lack of something else, and then ask the park board to consider doing something in late August or September? I kind of like that idea. Celebrate Haslet or back to school and see what we can set up then. I would agree that fireworks shouldn't be as big a deal, when we're not doing it when everybody else is doing it.
So Mayor Pro Tem, I agree with you, Mayor. I like that idea.
Well, it was Trish's idea. I'm just jumping on it. I think, yeah. Travis, can you take that back to them and see, and that's assuming, do we need to make that decision first, I guess. Are we comfortable canceling everything through some date in early July or July 1, and then it's too late to plan for the 4th? Or are we okay with that as a council?
I think that's a good idea.
Does that cancel the July 4th thing, or does that still leave the door open? I don't want the park board to feel like we're being ambiguous on that. So, I mean, I would almost say let's cancel through the July 4th activities, and so it would be beyond that. What comes after that? Movies in the park? Was that right, Kurt?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm almost thinking June 1st, just to see if things change in the next month or two. But I also understand you need to get a contract. And I really love the back to school, end of summer, Labor Day idea a lot. And I'm good with July 1st as well. I'm just thinking June 1st is 6 months away, and we might know more then. We might not. So I'm good either way.
Please let us know more then.
So I just want to clarify. So on Memorial Day, if Tanya's mom, who always heads that up, decides that they want to do a Facebook Live, just an event that's not a community gathering, it's somebody just doing it, would that be okay? That wouldn't be considered an event.
I think what I think I'm hearing from council, and I'm not trying to speak for them, a virtual event or one where we don't have a mass gathering would be fine. To commemorate that day in particular, I think would be a great idea. I personally don't endorse us getting together as a crowd until we got a better feel on where we are.
So then my second thing would be, if you're possibly kicking the fireworks to the fall, are you going to kick Wild West Fest to the fall, or are you going to say we're just not going to do Wild West Fest this year?
It's traditionally been a spring thing. They just moved it to the summer recently. So, right, it's usually in the spring, or it has been in the spring.
Yeah, and we've had nothing but problems with rain and weather in the spring. So I would kick it back to the park board. My recommendation would be kick it back to the park board, and we're not going to have a time to do it for the 1st of June. We don't even know who the vendor is going to be this year. I don't know if we're going to stick with Kelly Clark or whatever they plan to do. But I think sliding that to the fall, maybe do that all, the rodeo's over. I mean, we got to be sure we're not lighting firecrackers on top of the bulls when they're trying to load them in a trailer. But by the same token, I think trying to do that, back to back might not be a bad idea either, because they have to be done by dark with the show itself, because there's no lights. But it is summertime, so it's later. It could be, which coincides with the fireworks. So I would say have the park board take a look and come back with a recommendation. We're just saying we want to stay safe, until we have a better feel. So we're not going to have time to plan for anything through the 4th of July weekend.
So are we looking for a motion that says something to the effect of, we will not hold any in-person citywide events through a certain date?
Yes, ma'am. I would say no in-person city-sponsored event through a date. Y'all decide the date. I like that city-sponsored thing, just because we've used that with other communities to let them know that there's other stuff maybe going on in the city, but it's not a city-sponsored event, and that kind of separates us from some of our folks who are willing to take more chances. I'm not willing to. Yes,
Okay, so
ma'am.
let's
We're looking for a
negotiate
motion
that.
to that effect.
Let's negotiate that date. I think it should be after. I think it should be after July 4th, so that there's no question in the park board's mind what we're trying to do. Tanya said she was looking at June 1st, but I'm afraid that leaves open. That tells the park board that you might have to put this together if things get better. Of course, we
Then
can
why not
always
August
change
1st?
this.
Then why not even August 1st? If we truly want to.
That knocks out the 4th of, that knocks out fireworks for the 4th of July if we say 1 August. I don't think any of us is optimistic. June was just a date that we pulled out of the year, not putting anybody down there, but 1 August kind of takes care of all that stuff. And if they want to talk to somebody about doing a rodeo in the fall and fireworks in the fall, that's fine. But the soonest we're going to think about doing anything is, in your example, the last one, 1 August.
And of course, just like last year, we can be flexible to some extent. I mean, we can't call the fireworks guy up at the last minute, but anything we decide tonight is no, it's not flexible. I move that we cancel all city-sponsored events through August 1st.
Is there a second?
Mayor Pro Tem seconds.
Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call vote then. Warren Robb?
Aye.
Jessica Clark?
Aye.
Patricia Hilborn?
Aye.
Tanya Morrow?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. And then Travis, I think I've got a general sense of what the council's saying. Have the park board study whether or not they want to try to do a virtual or whatever they want to try to do on the Memorial Day celebration, and then to possibly consider fireworks and Wild West Fest in the fall. Just let us know. And then I guess in concert with that, if you could do some checking on availability for fireworks in the August-September timeframe, and see what kind of flexibility we can get on contracts with the ability to cancel, even if we have to pay a penalty for that. Am I leaving out the thing that y'all want to cover?
Just that we really appreciate the park board coming to us and saying, what do you want us to do? We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If Barbara is still on the line, Ms. Long, if you're still on the line, did you catch all that as well?
And I'll get with you, Travis, too. I mean, if we need to take the Easter Bunny just driving around the town in the parade, I'm willing to share cheer and joy. So we'll work on something.
Yes, I did get it all written down, and I think the ideas suggested were great.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'll share that with the Parks Board as well, with the rest of the board.
Thank you,
ma'am. I love the Easter Bunny on a fire truck idea. That would certainly be unique. That would live up to our vision.
Yeah, it's again, think it through though, because we don't want kids lined up next to each other on the street. We just need to think it through. So okay, let's go on. 9F, discuss, consider, and act on mayor and council absences. Anybody having coming up that you know about? Okay, Rob, anything from the Public Improvement District Subcommittee?
No, sir, not unless any of the subcommittee members have anything. There's nothing new to report for this meeting.
So that's Warren and Trish, right? Nothing
Yes,
from
sir.
either one? Okay. No exec unless somebody, I checked with Thad. He says we're not ready to discuss any of the property issues. So unless any of you have something for exec, I don't think we have anything there. 12, no action from exec. Anybody for future agendas? Okay, then we are adjourned at 10:48. Sorry it was so late. Y'all have a nice night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe. We're getting close.
Jessica, thanks for coming and staying late.
How's the
Tanya,
baby
thanks
doing?
for coming and staying late.